Chapter 1. In the 21st century, in an internet cafe in Shenzhen, a young man was sitting on a computer. He was quite handsome. His name was Lin Hai. He was 19 years old, 1.78 meters tall, in good health, male, interested in girls, and an orphan. I just watched the anime Pirates King. Zoro used his ultimate to slash Kaido. It was so cool. And the Straw Hat Luffy was just a cheater. He used Conqueror's Haki to entangle. In a good mood, Lin Hai prepared to play a few games of League of Legends to celebrate. Soon, Lin Hai grabbed a mid-lane Garen and typed on the screen, "Brothers, lie down, my Garen is a master." After finishing typing, Lin Hai proudly lit a cigarette, waved his hand at the cloud of smoke in front of him, then looked at the screen, gently touched his hair, and exclaimed, "So handsome." He was having a great time drawing the ball when he suddenly realized that 3 guys on the opposite side were ignoring his Garen. The minions hadn't even left the field yet, and they were already starting to tear down their own defense towers. Lin Hai could not help but get angry. "How dare you, do you think my great Galen is a statue?" So, Lin Hai used his hand speed, which was not supposed to be at his age, to quickly clicky, spin, spin. 3 kills. Ha ha ha. Lin Hai was so excited that he couldn't help muttering, "That's a triple kill? He's really handsome and has great skills." After returning to the city, Lin Hai took a puff of cigarette with pride, and then bought 2 Duran's blades and 5 bottles of medicine in the store. When you go out to Sandoran, there are vegetables everywhere. At this moment, there was an unusual thunder in the sky outside, and Lin Hai, who was playing games in the internet cafe, suddenly lost consciousness. A young man was sitting on the toilet lid in a restroom. He looked very sunny. It was Lin Hai who was playing games before. After waking up, he couldn't help feeling confused. It seemed like he was playing games in an internet cafe before. Did he have a lucky start? What is the situation now? Ding, the host's consciousness has been restored, and the Feng Shao system is binding. Lin Hai was very sure that this voice came from his mind system. This, Lin Hai is familiar with, and it's not like he hasn't read time travel novels before. So, he will be the protagonist soon? Lin Hai was so surprised that he exclaimed, "Woohoo, take off!" Ding, the Feng Shao system is successfully bound. Congratulations to the host for coming to the world of the anime Pirates King. It is currently the year 1519 of the Sea Circle calendar, which is the year before the protagonist of this world, Monkey D. Luffy, went to sea. This is the Sabayati archipelago. Ding, the novice gift pack is being distributed. The gift pack has been distributed to the space backpack. The host can check it with his consciousness. Following the system voices, Lin Hai was now very sure of his future. He suppressed his joy and excitement and quickly communicated with his mind, "System, you are so humane. I want to give you a 5-star praise, but why are you called the flirting system? Isn't flirting used to describe beautiful women? Remember, you are just a system, not a beautiful woman." Flirtatious system, host, this system is called the flirtatious system. Your question is rejected. Now in Lin Hai's eyes, everything is cute. He smiled and said, "It has personality. I like it." Open the novice gift pack quickly. In the space backpack there is a devil fruit, a knife, and a pill. The elixir is used to improve physical fitness, and the devil fruit is called space fruit and has no side effects, which means it is not affected by sea stone and sea water. Lin Hai shouted in surprise, "Flirtatious system, I love you so much, 5 stars, it must be 5 stars." Without saying anything, he ate the pill first, and then ate the space fruit as well. Gurgle, grunt. Lin Hai was startled and full of doubts. He asked, "System, this spatial fruit is really delicious. It has a unique fragrance of fresh fruit and is sweet. But why do I feel like I've taken a laxative?" Flirtatious system, host just took that pill and is currently in the process of detoxification. Lin Hai didn't have time to listen to the instructions, and quickly lifted the toilet lid. After some time, Lin Hai found herself in big trouble. There was no tissue. Lin Hai quickly communicated with the system, "System, can you provide paper towels?" Flirting system, host's flirting coin is 0.1 and cannot be exchanged. Lin Hai was so upset that after careful consideration, she had to take off the underwear she bought from Pinduoduo. Finally feel comfortable. Looking at the underwear that had been in the trash can for a long time, Lin Hai felt distressed. Flirtatious system, open my personal panel. Lin Hai still needs to familiarize himself with the system, otherwise what if he gets embarrassed? Isn't this an opportunity for readers to complain? Soon, Lin Hai's personal information appeared in front of Lin Hai in the form of a panel that no one else could see except Lin Hai. Host Lin Hai strength, 100 agility, 10 stamina, 250 feng shao coin, 0.1 space backpack, knife, sword. Since the host does not meet the requirements, the system store will not display it. After reading my personal information, I found that strength and stamina were easy to understand. I can currently exert 100 kilograms of force, and my agility is the maximum speed, 10 meters per second. After reading the information, Lin Hai said that the reward was too little, so Lin Hai tried to get the system wool. Lin Hai said, "System, before I traveled through time, when I was in school, I heard that many classmates' mobile phone screens were shattered because they were shattered by the residual power of Whitebeard's fist when they were watching the Pirates King Summit War. You see, the combat power of this world is too perverted. You should give me some more life-saving skills, or improve my attribute values. Flirtatious system, host, please don't have too many illusions. This system is just a supplement. You still need to rely on yourself for many things." Lin Hai said disappointedly, "Well, may I ask why there is no description of haki in my panel?" Flirtatious system, host, if you hadn't taken that pill and the devil fruit, you would still be a weakling, and haki would be far from you. Of course, pills and devil fruits are not elixirs, and they won't make you immortal immediately. As for feng shao coins, the system will determine how many feng shao coins and attribute bonus values you will be given based on your performance in a certain event. You can explore how to operate it yourself, and the host can name it according to the system. It's interesting. I like it. Lin Hai's mentality is still very good. Since there is nothing, forget it. Although he didn't get any benefits from the system, Lin Hai is still very satisfied with his current situation. For example, his own spatial fruit ability, basic information, Lin Hai already knows how to do it. It is very similar to Trafalgar Law's OPOP fruit ability. Open a spatial field, Lin Fan can freely control the objects inside. However, there are still many differences between the space fruit and the OPOP fruit. The space fruit does not have the ability to cure diseases. If Lin Hai cuts with a knife, then that person will really die. Before Lin Hai could continue exploring, he was awakened by the sound of footsteps outside. Lin Hai finally realized that she was stupid. She was too surprised and still stayed here smelling the smell that the handsome guy shouldn't smell. When Lin Hai opened the toilet door, he was met with a face that deserved a beating. There was a bubble wrapped around the man's head and his nose was running. The author doesn't know how to write the golden 3 chapters, but the author thinks the latter part is quite interesting. If you don't laugh, I'll leave it to you. Don't take it seriously. Chapter 2. Looking at the guy in front of him who wraps himself so tightly, isn't he hot? Also, this is a face that deserves a beating, the beard is so thick, and the nose is running. Pa. The first impression that flashed through Lin Hai's mind was that he was an idiot. Or maybe he's mentally retarded. The guy with the snotty nose is the celestial dragons of this world. He is known as the descendant of the creator god and enjoys supreme power. His name is Saint Charlos, and he is the guy who was beaten away by Straw Hat Luffy a year later. At this moment, Saint Charlos saw that the man in front of him saw him and dared to stand in front of him blatantly. Not only did he not kneel down, but the way that guy looked at him made Saint Charlos feel extremely insulted. Saint Charlos, who had just realized what was happening, was incredibly furious and said, You lowly servant, pariah, why don't you kneel down before me? I'm going to feed you to the pet I bought at the auction yesterday. Damn, what the hell is this? Lin Hai became angry and slapped Charles Saint in the face. What Lin Hai didn't expect was that after being slapped, this guy just happened to hit the wall and fainted. Lin Hai came to his senses and suddenly remembered, isn't this the celestial dragons? No wonder they are so arrogant. But looking at the fainted guy, Lin Hai couldn't help but think that he had to run away immediately. Because in the pirates' world, the consequences of fighting celestial dragons are very serious. Soon, the naval headquarters will send admirals over. Lin Hai is not stupid enough to escape from their pursuit. Lin Hai stopped after taking a few steps. There should be celestial dragons guards outside, right? Now, except for this idiot who can see his face, no one else knows, so run away quickly. The desire to survive made Lin Hai quickly come up with a solution, the space fruit. Open it, bah. Lin Hai walked back and spat a mouthful of thick phlegm on Charles Saint's face, and then chose to run away. After all, I have already hit it. How can I be worthy of myself and my kind and handsome readers if I don't spit it out? Space field. A circular bubble expanded from Lin Fan's palm, wrapping the wall of the restroom. Then, with a space swap, Lin Hai was outside the restroom. Then, Lin Hai began his escape. After coming out, Lin Hai hurriedly walked towards the coast. After all, when the Marine finds out that St. Charlos has been beaten, the Marine will definitely block the Sabayati archipelago. It would be fun if Lin Hai's face was recognized by that idiot. Try to avoid the crowds. After running for a while, Lin Hai found that the woman walking towards Sabayati archipelago not far away should be Boa Hancock. She is known as the most beautiful woman in the world, extremely powerful, and one of the Shishibukai. Lin Hai knew her past, and with her temper, she would definitely get into trouble. If the island was blocked, would Hancock listen to the Marine and accept the search? Lin Hai felt it necessary to remind this beautiful lady. Hancock and her two sisters looked at Lin Hai, who was running towards them in confusion. Lin Hai ignored their confusion and said, "One of the celestial dragons was knocked unconscious. This island will be blocked soon. You should leave quickly." After saying this in one breath, Lin Fan ran directly to the coast. When celestial dragons were mentioned, Hancock and her two sisters instinctively felt fear, and then disbelief. Is there anyone in this world who dares to fight celestial dragons? After a long pause, Hancock stammered, "The man just said. A green-haired woman who reacted said, "Sister, let's set sail quickly and visit them later." Hancock was still in a daze when she was dragged away by her two sisters. Lin Hai ran to the coast and quickly used his ability to board a large ship that had just set sail. However, this ship was not ordinary. It was a warship. There was a marine flag with a dog head hanging above it. Vice Admiral Garp was chatting with Marine Admiral Aokiji on the deck when they both noticed someone boarding the ship. What a courageous guy! When the Marines saw Garp set out, they all consciously performed their duties and did their own work well. Garp walked to where Lin Hai landed curiously and asked, "Boy, who are you? Why are you on my ship?" A drop of sweat flowed down Lin Hai's forehead. Lin Hai knew this Garp. But Lin Hai soon calmed down, because Garp had no idea that he had beaten the celestial dragons, and he was a righteous and non-extreme person. Lin Hai cried, "Me? My name is Sleeping God. I was chased by human traffickers, so I hid here in a panic." Sleeping God? God. Garp looked at Lin Hai with dangerous eyes. This can't be blamed on Lin Hai. In the past, all of Lin Hai's friends called him that. After all, when he was in school, he fell asleep while the teacher was teaching, and he had a dream. He dreamed that the teacher was lying, cough cough. A drop of cold sweat dripped from Lin Hai's forehead, and Lin Hai quickly explained, "My name is Huaxia.D. Lin Hai. Lin Hai from Daxia, is there anything wrong with him?" D. Garp cursed in his heart. He had met a troublesome guy today. Because Garp knew that people with the last name D were generally not simple. Lin Hai looked back and said, "Vice Admiral Garp, you can just call me Lin Hai. Can you give me a ride?" Garp was stunned. When ordinary people saw him, who would greet him like this guy? There was something. Seeing Garp nod, Lin Hai looked around, walked to the deck and said, "Vice Admiral Garp, can you give me a glass of water? I was chased all the way just now, and I'm so thirsty." Aokiji Admiral, who was lying on the chair, blushed. He thought, isn't it possible that someone this old is here? And, the drink belonged to him, Aokiji, and he hadn't drunk it yet. Lin Hai naturally noticed Aokiji lying on the recliner. Aokiji was a person, well, Lin Hai knew that he was not a random killer. And just now in the toilet, he had diarrhea, so he was so thirsty that he drank the whole cup. Aokiji took off his blindfold and sat up and said, "Allah, this guy, before drinking, shouldn't you ask the owner's opinion first?" Lin Hai breathed a sigh of relief, and then smiled, "Admiral Aokiji, thank you for the cup of tea. It's my fault that I'm too thirsty. Otherwise, I'll make you another cup." So polite? Aokiji waved his hand. "Kide, it's okay, I'm not thirsty. By the way, your name is Lin Hai, right?" Lin Hai nodded and said, "Yes, respectful Marine Admiral." Ha ha ha. Garp couldn't help laughing, and sat next to Lin Hai. He patted Lin Hai on the shoulder and said, "What a polite boy. By the way, how did you get on the boat just now? Chapter 3. Hiss. Lin Hai took a breath and quickly reminded, Hero Garp, do you want to beat me to death? How can you be a marine hero like this? Hey. Garp picked his nose and said, don't worry about the details. You haven't answered my question yet. How did you suddenly appear on my ship? Lin Hai moved his chair away from Garp and said, I'm not sure, it's just the power I gained after eating the devil fruit. Garp and Aokiji immediately became interested, and Aokiji asked first, what is that ability? Teleportation. Lin Hai shook his head and said, it should be related to the space system, but I'm not familiar with it. I almost fell into the sea just now, ha ha ha. Aokiji muttered, it looks like a paramecia ability. If developed properly, it should be an incredible ability. Lin Hai complained in his heart, devil fruit is for showing off, physical skills and haki are the key, right? He, Lin Hai, will not be like those guys, blindly running to develop fruit abilities. Without waiting for Lin Hai to continue thinking, Garp slapped Lin Hai on the shoulder again, and Lin Hai immediately cried out in pain, Uncle Garp, don't come near me, it hurts. Ahaha. Garp laughed and ignored Lin Hai's dissatisfaction. He guessed, looking at the situation, you just ate the devil fruit, after all, you are not very familiar with how to use it. Then, Garp stared at Lin Hai and continued to ask, you didn't steal the devil fruit that was about to be auctioned on the island, and then you were chased by someone, right? Lin Hai couldn't help but widen his eyes, amazed at such a big imagination. This reason is much more powerful than escaping from fighting celestial dragons. Noticing Lin Hai's expression, Aokiji thought Garp had hit the nail on the head and asked playfully, is that really the case? Lin Hai nodded like a chicken pecking at rice and said, yes, 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 I didn't eat for 3 days and 3 nights, and I accidentally ate a strange fruit. It turned out to be a devil fruit that someone had auctioned off. No wonder those people wanted to arrest me. This is a good reason, and Lin Hai used it directly. Anyway, the warship has left Sabayati archipelago, and they can't investigate it for the time being. Garp rolled his eyes at Lin Hai and confirmed, is that true? Yes. Lin Hai said quickly, otherwise, why would I come to your place for no reason? By the way, I want to thank you for letting me take this ship, but I don't have vellay. Garp interrupted with a wave of his hand, don't be so polite. Marine helps people in need, what else do you need in return? As long as you are not a pirate or a villain, why not give you a ride for free? Lin Hai held Garp's hand and said gratefully, you Marines are really good people. Thank you so much. May the heavens bless you all. Long live the heavens. Everyone looked at Lin Hai strangely, and Garp quickly withdrew his hand, feeling weird as well. At this time, Aokiji, who was sitting on a recliner, asked, hey, little brother, where is your home? Are you going to sail with us? Yes, where to go? I was too panicked before and ignored these things. Soon, Lin Hai glanced at Garp and stood up quickly to avoid being slapped by the old man who was always thinking. Will you go together? Lin Hai looked up at the horizon at a 45-degree angle and said slowly, I have no home for a long time. Life is like a fleeting moment. It is fleeting. Wherever you go, that's where you go. Why worry about it? Aokiji's face darkened, speak human language. Lin Hai turned around, scratched his head and smiled, just put me on the next island. Pa. Garp patted Lin Hai's shoulder like a ghost and said with a big smile, boy, if that's the case, why don't you join Marine and join us? Hiss. Lin Hai bent his body and quickly moved away from Garp. When he thought about joining the Marine, the image of being chopped up by celestial dragons and fed to Stalin flashed through his mind. He quickly shook his head kide, no, 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 I don't want to be a Marine. I can never be a Marine in this life. The expressions of everyone on the boat couldn't help but become more serious. Lin Hai also noticed this situation, and was upset that it was just an instinctive reaction and he couldn't control it. There was a moment of silence on the boat, and Aokiji asked first, hey man, why do you have this reaction? Did the Marine do something to you? Lin Hai said to Kide in embarrassment, well, this is my problem. I am lazy and used to being idle. If I become a Marine, I will have to get up earlier than the chickens and sleep later than. In short, that kind of life is not what I want. And I am not a person who follows orders. Garp rolled his eyes. It seems like you need a lesson. You actually found so many excuses to fool me. Hey kid, I see you are full of energy. Come with me to be a marine. In the near future, you may even be an admiral. Lin Hai immediately got angry. You are such a bad old man, don't try to fool me with this. I'm just telling you the truth, you guys know the population store on Sabayati Archipelago, right? Aokiji nodded and asked, what does this have to do with you becoming a marine? Lin Hai is in the rebellious period, and Kaido, who is a little hot-headed, said, it's a big deal. The naval headquarters is so close to the Sabayati Archipelago, and there is such an exchange in the Sabayati Archipelago. If I become a marine, I will die quickly. After a pause, Lin Hai continued, what exactly is justice? Is the so-called justice to serve certain people, ignore principles and openly treat living people as animals for trading? Congratulations to the host for asking a soul-searching question to an important person in this world. The reward is the host conqueror's haki. Show off as much as you can, dear host. Before Lin Hai could react, an inexplicable force gushed out from his body, and the pressure instantly enveloped the entire ship. Everyone seemed to be frozen, and some marines' eyes turned white and they lost consciousness. Garp. Aokiji. Lin Hai. People who are still conscious. This is Conqueror's haki, right? A marine asked with all his might. Did he do it? We have a very impressive guy on board. Is this Conqueror's haki? Lin Hai broke out in a cold sweat. Is this flirtatious system going to kill its host? However, I had to explain the current situation, but I didn't know how to explain it, so I could only say awkwardly, well, I was impulsive, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean it. Garp gave Lin Hai a meaningful look and said, boy, you are in danger. Lin Hai quickly took a step back and asked, what do you want to do? I'm a good person, and you are righteous marines, don't mess around. Plan. Aokiji punched Lin Hai on the head and said, messing around? Look at what you've done, UBD, come and help me. Help, help? What help? Lin Hai asked confusedly, but he was very happy in his heart, Conqueror's haki. Aokiji complained, the marine at the helm was knocked unconscious by you, and the other marines controlling the ship are also unconscious, what do you think? Lin Hai, I don't know how. Plan. Garp also punched Lin Hai and said, don't make excuses for me. Lin Hai shed tears and said, believe it or not, I will go to naval headquarters to complain about you. You beat me up at every turn, Wivu. After some operations, the warship resumed normal sailing in the vast ocean. Chapter 4. After chatting for a while, everyone got to know each other a little better. Lin Hai finally understood what kind of BD Garp was. He flattered him and called him a marine hero, but he kept hitting him on the head. The pain was unbearable. After calming down, Lin Hai finally calmed down from his previous panic and regretted why he didn't kill the celestial dragons when he met him. If you think about it carefully, as a good man in the 21st century, let alone the fact that he cannot bring himself to kill someone, once the celestial dragons die, the consequences will be disastrous. Maybe there is no place for Lin Hai anywhere in the world. After all, who can guarantee that the world government can't find out who did it? Lin Hai, who has watched the anime, knows a thing or two about the power involved. Garp also had some understanding of Lin Hai. He was not a bad guy in terms of ideology. He also knew that Lin Hai would not normally be a marine, so he stopped inviting him. At this time, all the marines who had lost consciousness returned to normal, and they continued to perform their duties as before. Garp, who was sitting at one side, asked Lin Hai curiously, boy, since you are not going to be a marine, what are your plans for the future? Lin Hai secretly took some of Garp's senbei and said seriously, I want to find a safe place, hide and have a good sleep first. Plan. Garp punched Lin Hai on the head and said angrily, today I'm going to wake you up, you depraved guy. You've really wasted such a good talent. Lin Hai covered his head and said angrily, stinky old man, I suspect that one day I will be beaten stupid by you. What the hell is that fist of yours? It hurts me to death, Wivu. Garp scratched his head awkwardly, turned to Aokiji next to him and asked, was I very strong just now? Aokiji stared at Garp blankly, not knowing what to say. Lin Hai took advantage of Garp's back and used his hand speed beyond his age to continuously k away the senbei on the table. I noticed that the marines here were trying their best to hold back their laughter. I never expected that Lin Hai would do anything for senbei. When Garp reacted, he exclaimed, my senbei. Pulu pulu. The den den mushi on the warship rang, and Aokiji asked, Mr. Garp, do you want to answer it? Garp stared at Lin Hai, Kaido, it must be that BD Sengoku who came to complain about me again. Didn't I say I would take a vacation? Don't bother with him. Being stared at by Garp like this, Lin Hai swallowed his saliva and quickly put the senbei in his pocket back on the table one by one. Naval Headquarters. A cup fell to the ground and rolled to the feet of Marine Admiral Kizaru Barusalino. Kizaru asked very sensibly, Marshal Sengoku, do you need me to go there? Sengoku said angrily, that BD Garp didn't answer my call again. Aokiji should be on his boat. I was going to ask him to go over and deal with it. Kizaru. After saying that, Sengoku looked at Kizaru, and the meaning was very clear. Kizaru's yellow eyes flashed a light, and he said slowly, it is said that the celestial dragons in Sabayati archipelago were knocked unconscious, and it was not until the guards noticed something was wrong and went in to investigate that they discovered it. I never thought that someone would dare to attack celestial dragons. Since celestial dragons were defeated, we at the naval headquarters cannot remain indifferent, right, Marshal Sengoku? Don't worry, I'll be back soon. Marshal Sengoku, then I'll leave it to you. Back to Lin Hai, on the warship. Lin Hai asked in confusion, Old man Garp, where is your boat going? Garp's eyes lit up immediately. Since this guy didn't want to be a marine, he might as well send him to Windmill Village to keep company with his grandson Monkey D. Luffy. Maybe they would become good friends. After all, Luffy was alone and lonely. Thinking of this, Garp casually said, I'm going back on vacation to see my grandson. Do you want to go there too? Lin Hai's eyes lit up. This was great. Life would definitely become exciting if he stayed with the protagonist of this world, Straw Hat Luffy. Moreover, when I watched the anime at that time, Luffy was the main plot. If I hang out with him, isn't it the same as having another cheat? However, in order to avoid being discovered by Garp, Lin Hai pretended to ask, is it safe there? If it is safe, I will go there. By the way, where is Admiral Aokiji? Is he going there too? Aokiji waved his hand and said, I am taking Mr. Garp's boat and will leave when we are halfway. Leaving halfway? Lin Hai raised his eyebrow, poked his hand, and said, Aokiji Admiral, you are so tall and handsome, can you lend me some Bailey? I don't have any Bailey on me. I am away from home, please be kind to me. I will pay you back 10 times, no, 100 times in the future. Aokiji's face darkened. How could he refuse such praise? As for the 10 times or something, it was all bullshit. This kid in front of me is really cunning. But Aokiji is an old hand, so he immediately changed the subject and said, why don't you ask Mr. Garp for a loan? Garp's face darkened and he looked at Aokiji dangerously. Lin Hai on the side explained, this old man is not serious. Does he have Bailey on him? I don't believe he has. Rich, plan. Garp was so angry that he punched Lin Hai. Lin Hai said angrily, stinky old man, am I wrong? Do you have Bailey on you? Ha ha ha. Garp said seriously to Kaido, no. Lin Hai said depressedly, no, you still hit me, tisk. Allah la. Aokiji said speechlessly, I have 250 Baileys here, take it. He had to borrow it. It was not like Aokiji had never tasted Garp's fist before. That fist could hammer the mountain or the ground. That feeling, tisk 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 tisk. After receiving the 250 Baileys, Lin Hai was instantly surprised and said, Arigato, brother Aokiji, you are such a good person. Aokiji shuddered instantly and quickly moved away from Lin Hai, with goosebumps all over his body. At this time, the system's voice sounded in Lin Hai's mind, ding, congratulations to the host for activating the flirtatious function, completing a flirtatious operation, and borrowing money from the Marine Admiral. Congratulations to the host for receiving 250 Feng Shao coins, free attribute plus 50, and forced addition to physical strength for the first time. For specific information, please refer to the panel. The flirtatious system turns out to be this kind of flirtatious? Lin Hai quickly found an excuse to go to a place where no one would disturb him, and opened his personal panel. Host Lin Hai strength, 100 agility, 10 stamina, 300, 250 plus 50, Conqueror's Haki, LV1, stuns the opponent, can be released freely but cannot be controlled. Can also be used for entanglement attacks, but currently does not have the ability to entangle. Flirtatious coins, 250.1 space backpack, knife, sword. After reading the personal information, Lin Hai couldn't help but breathe faster. Isn't this too awesome? Host, please don't be so surprised. It's the first time to activate the flirtatious rewards, so naturally there will be more. Seeing that everyone was doing their own thing, Lin Hai couldn't help but feel itchy and wanted to taste the feeling of sudden wealth again. So, Lin Hai said to the system, System, I used to be a good writer and a good warrior. In the League of Legends, I could be a good writer and scold my teammates, and I could be a good warrior and send people to their deaths. It's a pity that I have such talents, but here, my major is not suitable. Flirtatious system, host is indeed flirtatious, but unfortunately he chose the wrong person, so there is no reward. Lin Hai slapped himself. He was so angry that there was no reward. He thought he had to do something bad to others to get the reward. Before Lin Hai could get upset, Garp noticed that Lin Hai slapped himself. He couldn't help but sneer, You're really serious when you say I'm not serious. I've never seen an idiot like you who actually hits himself. Ha ha ha. Lin Hai's face darkened, and he said angrily, Can't I just hit the mosquito? Garp directly mentioned Lin Hai and taught her a lesson, Go to the kitchen and help me. If you want to eat, you must work hard. Flirting system, congratulations to the host for achieving a flirty operation, free attribute plus 40, flirting plus 400. Lin Hai was stunned for a moment, and quickly asked the system, What is the basis for this reward? Flirting system, Garp and Aokiji are important figures in this world. Each of them provides 20 attributes and 200 flirting coins, which can be used in the system store. The attribute values are arbitrarily assigned by the host. Note, free attributes refer to the total attributes obtained, such as attribute plus 50, which means a total of 50 attributes are obtained, which can be allocated to various attributes. Chapter 5. The next day, Lin Hai, who was sleeping soundly, was awakened by the noise outside. When she walked out, she saw Garp and Aokiji there. Lin Hai yawned, Another day I woke up to my own handsomeness. Being handsome is really annoying. Flirting system, ding, congratulations to the host for completing a flirting operation, free attribute plus 40. Flirting coins plus 400. Lin Hai woke up instantly, and immediately exclaimed inwardly, The higher the sky is, the sexier we should be, until it reaches the sky. Ignoring the frowns on the faces of the people around him, Lin Hai continued, Why are you looking at me like that? It's not my fault that I'm handsome. What can I do? I'm troubled too, okay. Flirting system, ding, congratulations to the host for completing a flirting operation, free attribute plus 40. Flirting coins plus 400. Garp on the side tried his best to restrain his fists, while Aokiji was shivering with fear. He had to get off the boat later. This little BD really deserved a beating. Moreover, he had beaten Aokiji 250 baileys yesterday. Looking at his mean look, he definitely didn't have the money to pay him back. On the other side, Lin Hai was ecstatic after 2 consecutive hits, so he continued, Mr. Garp, Mr. Aokiji, I am so handsome, if others see me, will it cause jealousy and then get beaten? In my hometown, there was a reader who was chased and hacked for 3 days and 3 nights because he was too handsome. It was really scary. Also, there was one guy who was so handsome that he dazzled the girls and almost crashed into a telephone pole. I heard that he was called in for tea later. Oh, this world is too dangerous. It turns out that being handsome is also a sin. Flirting system, ding, congratulations to the host for being so flirty, 3 consecutive critical hits, free attribute plus 120, flirting coins plus 1200. Before Lin Hai could be happy, Garp and Aokiji couldn't stand it anymore. Duan. Lin Hai was punched by Garp and Aokiji respectively. Garp's nostrils blew out 2 streams of hot air and he said angrily, What's wrong with this kid? He deserves a beating so early in the morning. Aokiji said, Allah, Mr. Garp, I'm going to say goodbye to you right here. Anyway, they were almost at their destination, so Aokiji quickly took out his bicycle and used his frozen fruit to ride it across the sea. Garp waved his hand, ignored Lin Hai who was lying on the deck, leaned back in his chair and drank his tea. Lin Hai happily called up the panel, Host Lin Hai strength, 150, 100 plus 50, agility, 100, 10 plus 90, stamina, 400, 300 plus 100, Conqueror's Haki, LV1, stuns the opponent, can be released freely but cannot be controlled. Can also be used for entanglement attacks, but currently does not have the ability to entangle. Feng Shao coin, 2650.1 space backpack, knife, sword. After Lin Hai distributed the data, he suddenly felt that his body was the same. Running from the first floor to the fifth floor, without any pain in the waist or breathlessness. After a while, Garp saw Lin Hai lying there all the time. He didn't use much strength just now. So, Garp asked tentatively, "Hey, it's just a punch, it's not that serious, right?" Lin Hai stood up instantly and said, "What can I do? Where is Admiral Aokiji?" Garp gave him a look of disdain. "Kaido, he's out on business." Lin Hai asked, "Are we going to your hometown? Where is it?" Garp Kaido, "Almost there, East Blue, Windmill Village." Lin Hai tentatively checked Garp's data panel, and it was still full of question marks. The gap was indeed huge. Originally Lin Hai wanted to brush up some more attributes, but is it so easy to brush up the charm value? This thing mainly depends on inspiration. Without inspiration, you can't be sexy no matter how hard you try. I don't know how long it took, but the warship sailed into the harbor of Windmill Village. Lin Hai, who was following Garp, saw the villagers pointing and talking, and he couldn't help but complain, "Garp, you are at least a vice admiral of the naval headquarters, a very prestigious person, but your hometown is in such a remote mountain valley. Look, when others see us like this, they think something big has happened here." "Oh, I see, you built your home deep in the mountains because you are afraid that your enemies will come to you, right? Tisk, how embarrassing." Garp turned around and asked, "Why, you have an opinion?" "Of course I have an opinion." Lin Hai put his index fingers in front of him and touched them together, and said pitifully, "I only have 250 baileys on me, and you took 200 baileys. Don't you feel guilty?" "Ah ha ha ha." Garp's expression changed immediately. "Don't worry about those little details, Lin Hai. I'll introduce my grandson to you later. His name is Monkey.D. Luffy. I'm sure you two will be able to chat with each other then." Lin Hai had no choice but to follow this shameless man. He couldn't beat him, so what else could he do? Those 200 baileys. It's not that Lin Hai is stingy, because the Feng Shao coins in the Feng Shao system are just numbers for the time being, and the system requires the data panel to reach a certain level before opening the system store. After a while, I saw a house. Garp went up and knocked on the door, but there was no response, so he knocked even harder. Finally, a loud angry voice came from inside the room, "Which BD is disturbing my nap?" Garp's face turned black. "It's me. Do you have any problem with that?" After Dodden opened the door, he broke out in a sweat when he saw the evil star. "Mr. Garp, how come you have time to come here?" Luffy, who had just returned, immediately shouted, "Grandpa, why are you here?" Garp was about to speak when Lin Hai spoke. He pointed at Dodden and guessed, "I know, she must be the mother of the guy in the straw hat, right?" "What mother?" She was still a virgin. "So," she asked Lin Hai in dissatisfaction, "Little ghost, what did you say? Isn't it?" Lin Hai scratched his head and suddenly said, "Oh, I know." Before he finished speaking, Garp asked with fishy eyes, "What do you know now?" Lin Hai put the back of his hand to his lips slyly, raised his eyebrows and whispered to Garp with a sly smile, "She must be your mistress, Mr. Garp, so you put her in this mountain valley to avoid being gossiped about by others, right?" After saying that, Lin Hai patted Garp's shoulder, who had a gloomy face, and comforted him, "Don't worry, I understand. As a man, I won't reveal what happened here. Just return the 200 baileys to me." Ding! Congratulations to the host for stunning everyone. Everyone in the field was indeed stunned for a while by Lin Hai's train of thought. Duan! Garp blew out 2 streams of hot air from his nostrils, and said angrily, "This is my hometown, what the hell is in your head, stop guessing." "Ha ha ha." Luffy rolled on the ground holding his stomach, laughing and asking, "Who is that? So funny." Swish, Duan. Seeing Luffy's behavior, as if it had nothing to do with him, Garp got angry. So he dodged and hit Luffy directly. Luffy cried out in pain, "Grandpa, why did you hit me? I didn't say anything about you." Ignoring Luffy's complaints, Garp sighed and said, "Dodden, do you have any food left? I'm hungry." Dodden said, "It's already late, why are you still eating? Go to the village and eat." "Hey!" Garp looked at Lin Hai depressedly and said, "Brat, Come here, I'll introduce you to him. Dodden exclaimed, Garp, this isn't your grandchild again, is it? Do you really think this is a daycare center? Stop it, UBD. Lin Hai posed in a self-proclaimed handsome pose, and lifted his hair up with both hands. Look carefully, how could someone as handsome as me be that old frivolous grandson? What kind of look is that? Bah! Duan! Garp grabbed Lin Hai violently, threw him next to Luffy and said, Okay, you two introduce yourselves, I'm going back now. If he had known, he would not have taken the 200 Baileys. Luffy was instantly surprised, Are you leaving? Great! Duan! Garp hit Luffy and angrily lectured him, Seeing your grandpa leaving, shouldn't you act like you're reluctant to let him go? You're pretending to be so happy. Is this the attitude of a grandson towards his grandfather? Idiot! Luffy covered his head and cried out in pain, I'm sorry, Grandpa, take care. Garp was very satisfied and said, You two should get along well. Looking at Garp's back, Dodden didn't even dare to fart. This old man was too scary, especially his fist, it hurt too much. Soon, Dodden said to Lin Hai and Luffy outside, You two bastards, go play by yourselves and don't disturb my sleep. Bang! The door is closed now? The world is so fickle. Where is the hospitality we promised you? Lin Hai and Luffy blinked and looked at each other. Lin Hai spoke first, My name is Lin Hai, what's your name? Chapter 6. Luffy smiled brightly and said, My name is. Lin Hai interrupted, Monkey D. Luffy, right? Everyone knows that. Hurry up, I'm starving. Luffy was confused for a moment, then said with a smile, You are such an interesting person, come on, I will treat you to a feast. Lin Hai's eyes lit up immediately, You are such a good person. Ha ha ha. Luffy said cheerfully, Don't worry about it. By the way, what did you say your name was? Lin Hai, Lin Hai, Lin Has Lin, Lin Has Hai. Luffy blinked, confused Kaido, not very clear. Lin Hai pointed to the forest next to him. Lin is the forest, and Hai is the sea. Do you understand? Luffy punched one in the face, I see, that's a weird name. Is that the name everyone gave you? Now it was Lin Hai's turn to be confused and asked, Why do you ask that? Luffy, look, the bear in the forest is named after him. Dog and bear, forest and sea. Lin Hai was so upset that he looked at Luffy with doubt and suspicion. He suspected that he was also taking revenge on him. Soon, as the two of them went deeper, Lin Hai finally reacted and asked quickly, Luffy, this road doesn't seem to lead to the village. Is there a restaurant over there? Restaurant? Luffy Kaido, what hotel? We are going to the forest. Lin Hai slapped his forehead and confirmed, You said you would treat me to a big meal, could it be that you want to go hunting in the forest? Luffy didn't notice that Lin Hai's expression was wrong. He gestured with his hands and said, The food in the restaurant is not enough to fill you up and you need a lot of Baileys, and I don't have any Baileys. Let me tell you, Lin Hai, there is a lot of delicious meat in the forest, which will definitely fill you up. Hey, why did you hit me? The two walked for a while, and Luffy asked in confusion, Are you also my grandfather's grandson? Lin Hai was stunned, and said with a malicious tone, Yes, so you have to call me brother. Luffy was full of questions, Why? Lin Hai explained, I am 19 years old, how about you? Luffy, I'm 16. Lin Hai spread his hands, That's right, I'm older than you. Luffy suddenly realized, I see. The two walked and talked, and Lin Hai pulled up Luffy's data panel, Monkey D. Luffy, the protagonist of Pirates World Strength, 1600 Agility, 150 Stamina, 3000 Devil Fruit, Rubber Fruit, Zoan Mythical Beast. Human Fruit. Nika form, possessing the luck of the protagonist, with great potential, he becomes stronger when facing a strong opponent, and turns danger into fortune. Seeing Luffy's attribute panel, Lin Hai exclaimed, Wow! Then looking at his own data panel, Lin Hai suddenly felt that it was not so good. After walking for a while, they both realized something was wrong because the surroundings were too unusually quiet. Then they heard a low growl of a wild beast, and saw a huge bear walking out of the forest. Luffy's face immediately became serious. This guy is not easy to deal with. Lin Hai, please step aside and let me deal with it. Luffy said, assuming a fighting stance and stretched one hand out behind him. Here's a guess, bullets. The giant bear raised its head and roared, then charged towards Luffy's fist. Boom! Luffy jumped to a place. Damn, this guy is too strong, but I won't lose to you, let's try. The giant bear seemed to be aroused by the punch just now and ran towards Luffy. At this moment, Lin Hai, who was at the edge, raised his eyes and glared. A sudden burst of energy instantly swept across the running giant bear. The giant bear that was enveloped by Conqueror's haki froze there, growling, sweat pouring down its forehead, and then its eyes rolled back and it fell straight to the ground, losing consciousness. Luffy on the side was also affected by Lin Hai's haki, because Lin Hai didn't know how to control it yet. Luffy, who was sweating profusely, was stunned for a moment, then muttered, This is very similar to the aura of Shanks and Grandpa. Luffy looked at Lin Hai in surprise. Sji, hey, Lin Hai, how did you do that? Can you teach me? Lin Hai motioned for Luffy to be quiet. He walked away and said, That's easy. The most important thing now is. As he said that, Lin Hai walked up to the giant bear and kicked it. You are the only one who comes out to scare people. I let you scare me, a mere wild beast. I thought Lin Hai was up to something, but this is the result? It seemed like a flock of crows flew over Luffy's head. He said with a frown, What are you doing? Lin Hai. Soon, black smoke rose from the forest, accompanied by the aroma of meat. After the two of them finished eating, Lin Hai couldn't help but frown and said unsatisfiedly, I only ate a little bit of meat, but you ate all the rest. Where is our next meal? Luffy, because it's delicious. Lin Hai angrily said, Is that what I mean? Have you ever thought about preparing some food? Do you think you can live without meals? He. Luffy laughed, Don't worry about it, there will always be food to eat, right? Didn't you eat just now? There was simply no way they could communicate. Lin Hai was so angry that he walked to a big tree and banged his head against it repeatedly, I can't stand it anymore. Luffy quickly grabbed Lin Hai and said, Hey, Lin Hai, don't let this bother you. Brought to the forest of Windmill Village by Garp, Lin Hai lived with Luffy for a few days. Lin Hai gradually adapted to the pace of life here, but sometimes Lin Hai would complain. Because there is no electricity, no computers, no coke at night here, and most importantly, no young ladies twisting their waists in the live broadcast room. Every day I either hunt or sleep. I always feel like I'm living the life of a savage. It's so monotonous. On this day, Lin Hai and Luffy set out from Dodon's cabin and headed towards the forest as usual. Today, the sky is clear and the air is fresh. There are towering mountains, lush forests, and the sea, and Lin Hai couldn't help scratching his head. He couldn't remember some of the lessons he had memorized before. The more he tried to think about it, the emptier his mind became. Zgay. Luffy, who was on Lin Hai's side, asked with shining eyes, What's behind? What's there? Lin Hai asked, Do you understand? Luffy smiled and said, I don't really understand it, but I think it looks pretty amazing. Lin Hai rolled his eyes at Luffy, then suddenly his eyes lit up, he looked around and asked, Luffy, you've been here for so many years, do you know where there are beautiful girls around here? Luffy, I don't know about beauty, but Dodon seems to be a woman, right? Lin Hai's face darkened instantly, Stop talking, don't say anything. Soon, with the addition of Lin Hai, hunting became very easy for the two. After the meal, the two lay aside to rest. Luffy said abruptly, Lin Hai, I will go to sea next year, what about you? Lin Hai cried, Me? I'll take it as it comes. By the way, why did you go out to sea? Is there not enough food here? Luffy ignored Lin Hai's complaints and said, I once made a promise with a man that I would go out to sea and become the king of pirates, and then return this hat to him. Hey, Lin Hai, will you go out to sea with me? It's fun to go on adventures together. Lin Hai asked, Going out to sea with you? Should I be the captain? Luffy quickly refused, No, I must be the captain. Lin Hai asked again, Then what should I do? Luffy thought for a moment and said, Of course he is my partner. Lin Hai waved his hand. Be your partner? There must be a position, right? Then I will be the deputy captain. Deputy captain? Great. Luffy couldn't help but be delighted. He, Ace has already gone out to sea. I don't know how he is doing. And I will go out to sea soon. I didn't expect that I already have a partner before I go out to sea. I really hope time passes faster. Haha. Lin Hai sneered, time passes faster? With your current half-baked level, you'd better not starve to death or sink in the sea. Luffy ignored Lin Hai's words and said, no, I won't die. I will be the king of pirates. Lin Hai rolled his eyes, isn't it just the king of pirates? Look how proud you are of me. I am the king of pirates. Luffy stood up, shook Lin Hai and said, hey, Lin Hai, teach me the move that makes Big Bear unconscious. Lin Hai had no choice but to explain, that thing is called haki. There are 3 types of haki. The first type, Conqueror's haki, is what I released just now, and you also felt it. The second one is observation haki, which is to predict the opponent's next move. If you don't have this power, then when you meet someone who knows observation haki, you will only be beaten. The third type is armament haki. Armament haki can be attached to any part of the body or weapon to increase attack and defense power. If you feel pain when someone hits you, it means you have used armament haki. As for more advanced uses, I won't go into details. First, train your body well, that is the foundation of everything. Luffy's forehead was covered with sweat, and he said excitedly, Sigui, so that's how it is. Then when can I learn that kind of power? Lin Hai shook his head kide, I'm not sure either. It should be awakened when the body strength reaches a certain level or encounters special things. Instead of talking about these things that we don't understand, why don't we fight each other? That's exactly what I want. Come on. Luffy immediately jumped away and kept a certain distance from Lin Hai. Space field. Lin Hai released his ability directly. Luffy looked at the film that wrapped him and immediately became alert. He had suffered a lot from this before. No matter how vigilant Luffy was, he was unable to cope with the speed of spatial transformation. Look, Luffy was swept away by Lin Hai's stick again. Damn it! Luffy walked out of the forest, his face full of indignation, one day I will beat you. Ha 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 ha. Lin Hai sneered, I'm still unfamiliar with my abilities now. When I become proficient, let's see how you can beat me. I will. Luffy said, I am the man who will become the king of pirates. Lin Hai retorted, everyday Pirates King is so great? Idiot Pirates King. Ouch. Luffy, idiot space fruit. What did you say? Idiot space. I hit. As time went by, Lin Hai started doing sit-ups, squats, frog jumps. Luffy, who was watching from the side, felt confused and wondered, can this really make you stronger? Lin Hai raised his eyebrows, what do you think? This is the scientific secret to strengthening the body, King Pirates. Luffy immediately followed Lin Hai's lead, I'm going to do it too, but I'm sure I'll do more than you. After practicing for a while, Lin Hai took out the knife from the space backpack. This knife was somewhat similar in shape to Zoro's sword, the Dao Ikimonji. It was silver-white, simple and low-key. The length and size of the blade matched Lin Hai's body shape very well. However, this knife has not been named yet, so Lin Hai decided to name it Gao Feng. Helpless, Lin Hai racked his brains but couldn't think of a good name, so he had to just come up with this random name. Luffy, who was standing by, noticed that a knife suddenly appeared in Lin Hai's hand, and couldn't help but ask curiously, Lin Hai, how did you do that? Lin Hai said with a smile, I am a person who has eaten the space fruit. I have a space backpack, and this knife was taken out from it. Luffy's eyes lit up and he said, this is fun. Can you take me into that space backpack to play for a bit? Lin Hai was speechless, living things can't get in. Luffy said in disgust, what? The space fruit is rubbish. Rubbish. Lin Hai smiled, watch it carefully. Space field. A circular film expanded from Lin Hai's hand, covering the big tree opposite. One knife style. Cut the cake. A white light flashed, and the big tree opposite was cut into two. Lin Hai turned to look at Luffy, raised an eyebrow and asked, how is it? Sije, can you perform it again? It's so cool. To clarify, the OPOP fruit controls objects in the power field, while the space fruit controls space. Don't confuse them, although both have the ability to cut. Of course, the ability development is based on the protagonist's experience, not randomly added to the protagonist. For example, at present, the protagonist has not yet released East Blue, so naturally he does not have that many abilities. The abilities that everyone has suggested, such as Kamui and Shinra Tensei, have different power systems, which will be explained later. I explain this mainly because I'm afraid of being criticized. In addition, the energy systems of the second dimension are different from those of cultivation, immortality, and other second dimensions. If they are mixed together, it will appear very messy and the power system will collapse. The early stage was mainly for comedy. Some people think that the space fruit is too weak, but it is not. Just the space exchange is enough for a master to pervert. Chapter 7. A few days later, in the forest, Lin Hai said in disgust, "It's really hard to describe eating this barbecue without any ingredients every day." Luffy said with a smile, "You also think it's so delicious that it's hard to describe?" I said meat is the most delicious. Lin Hai sneered, "Is that what I mean? By the way, why do you have to be the pirate's king? Is it just for a promise?" Luffy shook his head and said, "A deal is a deal. It's my own wish to become the king of pirates. I've already agreed with Ace that we're going to be the freest people on this sea." The freest person? Lin Hai couldn't help but sigh. Everything in the world is a unity of opposites. Where does absolute freedom come from? Flirtatious system, ding, congratulations to the host for realizing the truth. Conqueror's Haki has been upgraded to a higher level. Although Lin Hai was promoted by Conqueror's Haki, he was not happy. He felt like vomiting after eating this barbecue without any ingredients every day. But soon, an idea flashed through Lin Hai's mind, and he said to Luffy, "Want to eat something delicious?" When Luffy heard about delicious food, he instantly perked up and said excitedly, "Of course I did." Lin Hai said, "Come with me to the other side of the garbage dump, we'll have a big meal over there." Luffy was confused, "The stuff there is so expensive, do you have vellay?" Lin Hai looked at me with disdain, "Have you forgotten my ability?" Luffy immediately objected, "Lin Hai, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person." Soon, the two of them walked arm in arm towards the opposite side of the garbage dump, where the nobles lived. Compared with the windmill village, the prosperity here is a far cry from that of the windmill village. Most of the people behind those magnificently decorated shops are the nobles living here. Lin Hai felt no psychological pressure at all about ripping them off. I don't know how long it took, but an inopportune shout came from the street, "You two bastards, stop right there." Luffy held the meat in both hands, which he had taken from another customer's table while running away. He turned back and said, "Who wants to listen to you, idiot?" Lin Hai ran beside Luffy and shouted to the front, "Get out of the way, be careful or you will be knocked away." The residents nearby were confused and shouted to the store owner who was chasing Luffy and his friends, "What happened?" The store owner was furious. "Those two damn guys are eating and drinking for free. Stop right there." Luffy cried, "When I become the king of pirates and find the One Piece, I will definitely return it to you." Lin Hai, "That's right, I will pay you back 10 times, no, 100 times. Shopkeeper, a hole, do you take me for a fool? Stop it and pay for vellay." Lin Hai, "You actually knew that? Pa, how dare you not give face to the future pirates king? You are so brave." Luffy, "Yes, you are really brave, hee. Bang bang bang." Lin Hai and Luffy came back with some food and knocked on Dodon's door. The room was filled with curses again, "Which BD is here to disturb my rest again?" When Dodon opened the door, she saw Lin Hai and Luffy. She was full of confusion, "What do you two brats want to do?" Without waiting for Luffy to answer, Lin Hai could not help but speechless, "It's almost dark now, and you're still taking a break? Here, I'll give you something delicious." Dodon was shocked, "You kid, can't you?" Lin Hai handed the food in the bag to Dodon and gave him a look that said, "You know what I mean. Eat quickly, we're leaving." Luffy laughed, "Ha ha ha, Dodon, this is what we got from the kitchens of those nobles." Lin Hai quickly covered Luffy's mouth, dragged Luffy away, and said angrily, "Didn't you promise me not to tell anyone about this?" Luffy, Lin Hai nodded, "No, Dodon, or I won't take you there next time." Luffy, Dodon on the side was full of black lines on his head. How did that BD Lin Hai understand what Luffy said? And it seemed that they had eaten a free meal at the noble's place, and brought back so much food? Dodon looked outside and closed the door immediately. "It's time to eat. Finish it quickly." The next day, somewhere in the forest. After Lin Hai and Luffy fought for a while, although Lin Hai could not beat Luffy without using his abilities, his skills were definitely better than Luffy's. After all, Lin Hai is a time traveler who has seen the special skills of various characters in the anime Pirates King, as well as insights from the 21st century. Lin Hai said, Luffy, you are wasting a lot of energy when fighting. You have to understand that in addition to fighting skills, remember that you are rubber. You need to use the characteristics of rubber. Also, we have been training for so long, don't you have your own killer move? Luffy was full of doubt, a decisive blow. Lin Hai was speechless. It's just the trump card. When facing an enemy who wants to kill us, we have to research our own tricks, right? Luffy shook his head. Lin Hai, what about escaping? At least develop a trick to escape when you can't defeat the enemy. Luffy shook his head again. Lin Hai silently took off his slippers, walked up to the confused Luffy, and slapped his slippers hard on his face. You are the only one who knows nothing, and you still want to be the pirate's king every day. I'm against you, you stinky straw hat. Hateful. Just like this, day by day, Lin Hai and Luffy grow up in their practice, and are ready for the next year's voyage. Garp could never have imagined that he had originally wanted to find someone to accompany his grandson, but in the end, a troublesome guy appeared, which would make him both distressed and happy in the future. Chapter 8. See Circle Calendar 1520, which is the second year since Lin Hai traveled to the pirates' world. A place far away from the windmill village, Lin Hai, who had become much stronger, heard the voice of the coquettish system in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for opening the system store. Lin Hai opened the panel with surprise. Host Lin Hai strength, 1200 agility, 120 stamina, 2100 conqueror's haki, LV2, stuns the opponent, can be controlled and released freely. For those with weak will, it will stun them directly. Feng Shao coin, 6000.1 space backpack, knife, sword, alias, Gao Feng system mall, restart doll, 450, TT45 instant noodles, 8, eggs, ham, 2. Shave, 100,000, life return, 100,000, moonwalk, 100,000. Tokuchijian, 1 million, meteor sword technique, 1 million, I have a sword, 100 million, special note, except for daily necessities, other items cannot be used by others. Looking at the dazzling array of system stores, Lin Hai suddenly lost his composure. Lin Hai said to the system shyly, System, I am a serious person, what do you mean by putting that in the store? Flirty system, who the host is has nothing to do with the system. The right to interpret the item lies in the description. Hee. Lin Hai said excitedly, interesting. Aren't these things a bit expensive? For example, what the hell is that? I have a sword. It costs 100 million. Who would be stupid enough to buy it? Currently, Luffy's attributes are higher than his own in all aspects. Lin Hai feels that it is faster to improve by playing in the pirates group. After all, the system's rewards have already shown that you need to perform cool operations in events in order to get high returns. Before Lin Hai could ponder, Luffy had already rushed over from behind. He said depressedly, Lin Hai, you are really cheating, aren't you? You said you wouldn't use your ability, but you used it again. I don't lose. Lin Hai was too lazy to compete with him, so he changed the subject and asked, Luffy, we are planning to go out to sea tomorrow, right? Luffy immediately showed his excitement, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. I will be the king of pirates. Lin Hai echoed, I also want to go out to sea and live like this every day, tisk tisk tisk. But I'm about to leave here, and I feel reluctant. Luffy sat on the rock he often sat on, looking at the sea, and did not reply. Lin Hai walked forward and sat in the seat where Ace used to sit. Facing the sea breeze, the two couldn't help but imagine the unknown journey, what kind of people they would meet, what kind of things would happen, and what kind of adventures they would have. Facing the sea breeze, the sea in front of you is the starting point of your journey, and the unknown distance in the horizon is where you want to arrive. How can there be no wine at such a poetic moment? Lin Hai immediately took out the red wine he had bought from the noble district and handed a bottle to Luffy. Come on, cheers to your life. Cheers to your life, hee. Originally Luffy didn't like drinking, but after being persuaded by Lin Hai, he gradually began to like drinking. After all, pirates don't drink, so how can they have feelings? The next day, at the windmill village port, there were two people sitting on a small boat. The boat was twice as big as the one Luffy was on in the original book, and there were 2 empty barrels on the boat. In case of a storm or something, Lin Hai thinks he can follow the example of the original novel and hide in a barrel. As for the food, Lin Hai threw it all into the space backpack. The coastal port was silent for a while, and Luffy said generously, "Goodbye everyone." "Luffy, Lin Hai, goodbye. Have a nice trip." "Hey, is it really okay for them to go out to sea on that ship?" The villagers on the shore were whispering. After a while, Lin Hai and Luffy on the boat noticed that something big was coming up from under the boat. They stared at the bubbling sea surface. Lin Hai said, "Luffy, I heard that this stinky fish is very arrogant. Now that it has come out today, let me help the villagers get rid of this harm." Luffy nodded, "I'm going to beat it up today, come on, stinky fish." "Beat it away? Are you kidding? I'm going to chop it off." Lin Hai immediately objected. Suddenly, the villagers on the shore saw two people playing rock paper scissors on the boat. They all became nervous. The huge monster had already jumped out of the sea. Its size and momentum. "Hey, what's wrong with those two? Didn't they notice the danger?" "Luffy, Lin Hai, watch out behind you, king of the near sea." "Ah, stop playing rock paper scissors and run away." Lin Hai on the boat smiled triumphantly, "Haha, I win." Space field. Clang. Before everyone could react, they saw a flash of white light, and then the head of the king of the sea flew up. Lin Hai jumped, grabbed the head and lower body of the king of the sea with one hand, and shouted, "Go, Pikachu!" Suddenly, a huge fish body smashed into the deserted side of the coast. Boom! When the smoke cleared and the villagers saw what it was, they all couldn't help swallowing, "Sji. What kind of monster is he? Did he just throw it over with one hand? That's amazing! How did they do that? I just saw the king of the sea emerge from the sea level, and then... On the other side, seeing Lin Hai jumping back onto the boat, Luffy couldn't help but pout, turned his head to one side, and muttered, "What's so great about that? I can also throw it onto the shore." Lin Hai rolled his eyes at Luffy, "Here, your chicken drumstick." Luffy's eyes lit up immediately and said, "My chicken leg." "Lin Hai, you are such a good person." Soon after, the boat had moved away from the windmill village and entered the real sea. The water and the sky were connected in a blue hue, and it was impossible to tell the direction. Lin Hai was a little panicked and asked, "Luffy, where are we going to drift to if we just keep drifting like this?" Luffy's leisurely kaido, "We'll eventually reach our destination, right?" Lin Hai laughed, "You seem to be at ease. Why don't you just say that you can drift directly to the Grand Line?" Luffy was delighted, "Really? Dream on." Lin Hai sneered, "Don't you have any sense of danger? If a storm comes now, who do you think will be drowned first?" "What?" Luffy exclaimed, "Storm? What do you think we should do?" "How should I know?" Lin Hai said, "No, when we reach our destination, we must quickly find a navigator to be our partner, otherwise, we won't know where to go." Luffy nodded, "What you said makes sense, then let's find a navigator first." Lin Hai leaned against the side of the boat and muttered, "We are drifting like this, and we don't know where we will drift to." Luffy also leaned against the side of the boat and said with a smile, "Don't worry, we'll get there eventually." After an unknown amount of time, Lin Hai and Luffy both realized something was wrong. After they looked at each other, Lin Hai shouted urgently, "Paddle quickly, we've fallen into the Uzumaki." Luffy, "Oh." However, no matter how hard I rowed, it was useless to stop the huge and long wave coming from afar. Even if I used my ability, the wave was too wide. Looking at the huge waves tens of meters high and Uzumaki not far away, Lin Hai shouted, "Luffy, hide in the barrel quickly, our ship is going to be lost." Luffy moved quickly and asked, "What about you?" Lin Hai cried, "I'm not a landlubber. I'm confident in my swimming ability. I'll come find you when the time comes." Good. Chapter 9. Somewhere in the east blue, the sky was cloudy and thundering just now, but now it is sunny and windy. The weather on the sea is like a woman's face, changing at any time. There is a wooden barrel floating on the sea level, and Luffy is inside the barrel. At that time, facing the small boat that was about to be sucked into the center of Uzumaki, Lin Hai used his ability to move the small boat away from Uzumaki. Unfortunately, the small boat was broken up by the huge waves, and Lin Fan, who was holding a piece of wood, was separated from Luffy. At this time, a crew member on a passing merchant ship found the barrel and thought it contained treasure or wine, so he salvaged it. Not far from the merchant ship, a pirate's ship suddenly appeared. "Pirates on board!" A lady's voice came from the bow, Kirby, who is the most beautiful person on this sea? A short boy with pink middle-parted hair and glasses, his name is Kobe. Kirby scratched his head. Kaido, of course it's the captain of this ship, Miss Alvida. He, ha 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 ha. The lady standing at the bow is the captain of this ship. Her name is Aelita, and she has a lot of tonnage. She is full of fat and has many pockmarks on her face. In short, she is very ugly. After laughing, Alvida said happily, "That's a good answer. Kirby, thank you." A crew member said at the right moment, "Ms. Alvida, this is a rare prey." Alvida, "Yes, let's hijack the ship." Ouch! The crew immediately cheered and the sound of cannons continued. Alvida looked at the luxurious merchant ship in front of her and said, "Boys, let these bastards see how terrifying the female pirate's iron rod Alvida is." After receiving the order, the crew members all ran along the rope to the merchant ship. Alvida saw that everyone had gone over, but Kirby was still holding the rope, so he asked, "Kirby, what are you doing?" "Kirby, I'm most afraid of this kind of scene." Alvida misunderstood and angrily said, "How dare you disobey my order?" As he said that, Alvida kicked Kobe onto the merchant ship opposite. Then, Pirates Captain Alvida chose to jump over and shouted excitedly, "Hey ha ha, here I come." While Alvida and her crew were trying to hijack the ship, Lin Hai was still drifting with a piece of wood. Lin Hai didn't know how long he had been drifting, but he was really scared. It was the first time he saw the power of nature and was carried by the waves into the sea dozens of meters below. It would be a lie to say that he was not panicked. Fortunately, Lin Hai has a good mental state and can stay calm. I don't know how long it was, but suddenly I heard a faint woo, woo sound, and Lin Hai suddenly perked up. He quickly paddled with one arm, getting closer to the source of the sound, and then he saw two boats in front of him. Space field. Lin Hai activated his space fruit ability and dodged directly onto the deck. Before he could dry his clothes, he saw Luffy being chased by a group of people not far away. Then Lin Hai discovered that Luffy bounced back and sent a group of people flying. It seems that Luffy still loves to play. Lin Hai greeted him, "Hi Luffy, you seem to be having fun." Luffy was delighted, "Oh Lin Hai, I knew you would be fine, ha ha ha." Just then, Alvida came over with a huge mace. Lin Hai's eyes suddenly lit up, "Flirtatious system, it's time to be flirty to the extreme." He walked over to Luffy and asked, "Are they pirates?" Before Luffy could answer, Alvida spoke up first, "Ah, we are pirates, I am Captain Alvida, who are you?" Luffy cried, "My name is Luffy, and next to me is my companion Lin Hai. We are also pirates." Alvida asked, "Are you here to steal treasure as well?" Lin Hai said first, "Yes, hand over your treasures quickly." Luffy looked at Lin Hai in confusion. When did they come to steal the treasure? Lin Hai gave Luffy a reassuring look, and then saw Alvida looking at him as if waiting for him to speak. Lin Hai pushed her hair up with both hands and said, "Why are you looking at me? You must not like me. Although I am handsome and elegant, how can a pheasant be matched with a phoenix? It is useless to think about it, and it is also a sin to think about it. Don't think I don't know what you are thinking. You want to chat up with me, and then you will have a chance? No, not at all. How could I be interested in a mere pirate's captain?" Everyone on the boat stared at Lin Hai in amazement. Alvida lowered his head with a frown on his face. "Flirting system, ding, congratulations to the host for performing a flirting operation." Hearing the system's voice, Lin Hai continued with satisfaction, "Why don't you look at me? Why should I scold you for no reason? You don't look at me, which clearly means you have bad intentions." Alvida finally couldn't stand it anymore, and waved his mace with murderous intent on his face, "A hole, you dare to play tricks on me? Go to hell." Luffy on the side said, "Lin Hai squat down." After spending a long time together, the two naturally have some tacit understanding, and Lin Hai knows what Luffy wants to do. As soon as Lin Hai squatted down, he saw an elongated arm hitting Alvida's stomach. Ah! The fat Alvida was directly knocked away by Luffy's powerful punch. On the other side is Kobe, the little guy who was pulled by Alvida to do odd jobs after mistakenly boarding the pirate's ship and was kicked to the merchant ship by Alvida not long ago. Kobe stuttered, "Sijayi." The Alvida crew members, seeing their captain being knocked away, became headless flies. Without a leader, they didn't know what to do next. In addition, with Luffy on board, the pirates didn't dare to rob anymore and fled or went to look for Alvida. After inquiring, it was found that the ship's route was opposite to the direction of the island that Luffy and Lin Hai were going to. Just when Luffy was thinking about what to do, the captain of the cargo ship gave Luffy a lifeboat because Luffy saved the entire ship, and sailed to the next island. After all, there were no other larger ships on the cargo ship, and the next island was not far away. Seeing that Lin Hai and Luffy were about to set sail, Kobe stopped them and asked, "I know the next stop is Shields Town. Can you please let me take you there?" Seeing the two people's confusion, Kobe explained, "I have wanted to be a marine since I was a child, to catch all those guys who commit crimes. And the nearest place here is the town of Shields, where there is a marine base, and I want to join the army there." "Really?" Lin Hai smirked. "Luffy and I are both pirates, and we are both extremely evil villains. Do you think we will create opponents for ourselves?" Kirby was suddenly embarrassed. "Ha ha ha." Luffy put a hand on Kobe's shoulder and laughed, "Come on, Kobe, he's just kidding you." Lin Hai also smiled and said, "Don't worry about it. We don't know how to get to the next island anyway." Then, Lin Hai looked at Luffy with a playful look and said, "It would be great if someone knows how to get there. I don't want to drift and sway on the sea again, and then hide in the barrel again." Kobe suddenly realized that this was the reason why Luffy came out of the barrel. Luffy couldn't help but blush and sneered, "Oh Lin Hai, you are so despicable." Soon, Lin Hai, Luffy and Kobe got on the boat. There was another small boat parked next to them. The girl with orange hair and a curvy figure on the boat, who else could it be but Nami? Chapter 10. After Lin Hai and Nami looked at each other, Lin Hai couldn't help but sigh, "Nami is really beautiful, such a figure, wow." Without thinking too much, Lin Hai said, "Hey, beautiful lady, are you going to Shields Town?" "Nami, ah? Yes, I was planning to go there. Any problem?" Lin Hai jumped directly onto Nami's boat, and the boat Nami was on began to shake for a moment. Nami exclaimed, "Don't you have a boat there? Why are you coming to my side?" Lin Hai put his arm around Nami's waist and whispered, "We are planning to go there too, but the boat is too small. It's too cramped for 3 people to sit on." After the boat stabilized, Nami couldn't help but look gloomy. Was this person holding her waist the first time she met him? How could he be so rude? Nami raised her eyebrows and couldn't help but said, "Why don't you let me go? How long are you going to hold me?" "Ah ha ha ha." Lin Hai quickly withdrew his hand and explained, "The boat was shaking too violently, I was just concerned about you." Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a flirtatious operation, and I will reward you with a box of TT. Lin Hai couldn't help but look dark. What does the system mean? Is he, Lin Hai, that kind of person? Who would use that? Don't you think it lacks realism? Ha ha ha. Luffy on another ship held his stomach and laughed, "Lin Hai, you have a really good brain." Lin Hai couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Did Luffy really see something? No way. After a while, the ship had already set sail. Lin Hai said unhappily, "Kobe, remember to follow this ship closely." Luffy, why? Lin Hai, do you know how to sail? Luffy said bluntly, "No." Nami couldn't help but complain, "No way you can say it so confidently." Lin Hai pointed at Nami and said to Luffy, "She should know about sailing. Since we have the same destination, let her take us there." After that, Lin Hai introduced himself to Nami, "My name is Lin Hai, the one with pink hair on the ship is Kobe, and the other one is Luffy. What's your name?" Although he knew that the beautiful girl in front of him was called Nami, what would she think if Lin Hai directly said her name? "Nami Kide, my name is Nami. You guys are quite skilled. I saw you guys beat that pirate's captain away just now." Lin Hai glanced at the bag on the side and thought, forget it, just pretend that he didn't know. Otherwise, Nami might think that he was trying to steal her treasure and he might be sent back to another boat. At this time, Luffy finally reacted and asked, "Nami, are you a navigator?" Nami was stunned, "Kide, no, but my sailing skills are okay." Luffy was delighted and said, "My name is Monkey D. Luffy, and I aspire to be the king of pirates. Lin Hai next to you is my vice-captain. You will be the navigator of my ship, Nami." "Nami, you are actually pirates? Thank you for inviting me, but I don't want to be a pirate. I hate pirates the most." Luffy didn't force Nami to go back on the boat after being rejected by her. Lin Hai leaned against the side of the boat and didn't interfere. She knew very well that Nami would not get on the boat until the issue of her hometown being occupied by the pirates was resolved. At the same time, Kobe on the side said worriedly, Luffy, I heard that the pirates hunter Roronoa. Zoro is there. Luffy asked in confusion, Pirates hunter? Is he strong? Nami looked at Kobe with some doubt. Pirates hunter, she had heard of it before. She couldn't help but listen to the conversation between the two. Kaido, of course he is very strong. He is known as a demon beast in human skin. Warcraft. Luffy said, holding up his hat. If he's a good guy, I'll invite him to be my partner. Kobe said in surprise, dude, partner? Hey Luffy, that's a pirates hunter, and you're pirates, aren't you afraid of being killed by him? Luffy said with a smile, I am very strong. If he is a good person, I will invite him to be my partner, hehe. Nami on the side couldn't help but twitch her eyes, and looked at Lin Hai sleeping on her boat, and couldn't help but complain that it was really weird. Pirates invited pirate hunters to be pirates, it was really unheard of. As a few people were chatting, the boat soon entered the port of Shields Town. Once we arrived at Shields Town, Nami said, I have something to do, so let's say goodbye here. Anyway, they will meet again in the future, Lin Hai doesn't care, then see you again if we are lucky enough, thank you for leading the way. Luffy asked, how about we go find that Zoro first? Kobe protested vehemently, Mr. Luffy, everything I just said to you was in vain. Lin Hai said with a smile, what you heard are just rumors, and you haven't actually seen it. Are you sure you can be a good marine just by judging based on rumors? Kobe was suddenly choked up. This prejudice was indeed a big mistake. He had no choice but to follow Luffy and the others to find Zoro's location. After some questioning, Lin Hai and his companions arrived at the marine base. On the marine training ground, there was a 2-meter-long cross stuck in the ground, and tied to the cross was a strong-looking young man wearing a black headscarf. Despite the scorching sun, the young man tied there still had a very good aura, giving people a sense of oppression that made people dare not approach him. At this time, Luffy, who had climbed up the wall, couldn't help but sigh, is that the legendary monster? Hey, you're an eyesore, get out of here. The young man tied to the cross noticed the people on the wall and said coldly. Kobe was frightened and quickly advised, Mr. Luffy, you saw it too, let's go. Luffy observed Zoro and asked, why is he tied there? Lin Hai couldn't help but complain, he didn't think that we heard his story and came here to watch and laugh at him, did he? He is really arrogant. At this moment, a staircase suddenly appeared on the wall, and it turned out to be a little girl. The little girl climbed up the stairs clumsily. Seeing how hard she was struggling, Lin Hai had no choice but to use his ability to send her into the marine base. When she suddenly entered the marine base, the little girl was confused. She looked around and still didn't understand how she got in. Lin Hai on the wall said with a smile, don't look at it. Do whatever you need to do quickly and come back quickly. The little girl nodded seriously at Lin Hai, then ran to Zoro and said, brother, you haven't eaten for several days. If you don't eat, you will starve to death. Here, this is the rice ball I made by myself, eat some quickly. When Zoro was about to yell at the little girl to leave quickly, so as to avoid being punished as a rebel by Monka, the ruler of the town, Lin Hai used his ability to get to the little girl. He took the rice ball from the little girl and said with a smile, his hands are tied, he can't get it at all. Zoro glanced at Lin Hai and said, I'm not hungry, take her away from here quickly. You're ordering me again. Lin Hai smirked, you're so arrogant even though you're tied up. Zoro was shocked, what do you want, a hole? Lin Hai took the rice ball and violently stuffed it into Zoro's mouth. Then, Lin Hai picked up the little girl and said with a smile, it's too hot here and we're hungry. Let's find a restaurant first. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a cool operation. Lin Hai was confused, what was wrong? At this time, the little girl suddenly returned to the outside of the marine base. She asked confusedly, Big brother, did you do this? Lin Hai nodded and said, yeah, brother is awesome, right? Yeah. The little girl nodded in agreement. Luffy and Kobe on the wall have come down, Luffy said, Lin Hai, let's go find a restaurant first, we are hungry. Kirby scratched his head, I'm hungry too. The little girl said, come with me, my mother runs a restaurant. Luffy's eyes lit up and he asked, can I eat for free? In the base, Zoro finally swallowed the food in his mouth and couldn't help but secretly said, I must chop that BD to pieces when the time comes. I almost choked to death on the rice ball just now. Chapter 11. In a restaurant in Shields Town, after eating for a while, Luffy couldn't help but exclaimed, "Boss, the food you cook is so delicious." Lin Hai rolled his eyes. "Of course it tastes good if it's free." The proprietress smiled and said, "I want to thank you for saving my daughter. This meal is my treat." After chatting for a while, Luffy asked in confusion, why was that pirate's hunter Zoro captured and taken to the marine base? Did he not pay for his meal? Everyone couldn't help but look grim. The little girl was the first to get angry and said, "No, that's not why Big Brother was arrested." The proprietress stepped forward and explained, "More than 20 days ago, Colonel Monka of this town, his son Bellemeber brought his beloved dog here to eat, but the vicious dog suddenly jumped up and tried to attack my daughter. Zoro, who was eating at the side, was not happy with the situation and beat up the vicious dog, which in turn angered Bellemeber. He wanted to execute us because his father's dignity was violated. Later, he asked Zoro to surrender and held him in custody for a month. Once the time limit was up, Bellemeber would release Zoro and stop blaming others. That was roughly how it happened." At this time, Nami, who came here to eat, couldn't help but ask, with such a ridiculous reason, did Zoro finally agree? "Well," the little girl said a little sadly, "Big Brother has been locked up for many days." The proprietress picked up the little girl and said to everyone, "It's all our fault. If it weren't for..." Lin Hai secretly took a piece of meat from Nami's bowl, and then said angrily, "This is not your fault, it's that Bay." "What is Bay?" "Ha ha ha, isn't Zoro starving to death yet?" A very arrogant guy walked in from outside, and the restaurant immediately became silent. At the door, a young man with blonde hair, a suit and a coquettish pace came in. His unruly expression made people want to smack him in the face. This person is Bellemeber, the son of Marine Colonel Monka. Kaido, the marine behind Bellemeber, said, "Master Bellemeber, that pirate's hunter has been starving for more than 20 days, yet he still seems to be in good spirits." Belumbo said playfully, "Ha ha ha, in that case, let's execute him tomorrow." Upon hearing this, Luffy could not help but rush over and punched Bellemeber, and asked angrily, "What do you think of the agreement?" Belumbo covered his cheek and said, "How dare you hit me? I will go back and tell my father to execute all of you." Luffy said angrily, "Come on, no one is afraid of you. Kaido, just wait for me. I will go back and kill you all." As soon as Bellemeber and his followers left, the boss lady was about to say something but stopped herself. Lin Hai comforted her, "Boss lady, don't worry. I'll go to the marine base and beat up that guy called Monka. I guarantee he won't dare to cause trouble for you." The proprietress sighed and said, "You don't know the situation here. Monka is the ruler of this town. I advise you to leave here quickly." Lin Hai didn't want to explain anything and turned to look at Luffy. "Luffy, I'm going to beat that stupid son to pieces and make Zoro our partner." Marine base Luffy put on a smile and walked closer to Zoro. "You're amazing. You can still hold on after not eating for so many days. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to do it in just one day. Ha ha ha. Zoro, I'm different from you. I have things I have to finish. I can't just fall down like this." "Luffy, what a strange man. My name is Monkey D. Luffy, I am the man who will become the king of pirates. The one next to me is called Lin Hai, my partner, you will also be my partner." Zoro looked up in disbelief and said, "See, King Pirates? Do you know what these 3 words mean?" Luffy said with a smile, "The king of pirates is the king of pirates, what else could it be? Now, I'll untie your ropes, and you'll be my partner." Zoro looked disdainful, "Pirates are all bad guys. I don't want to be an accomplice of the pirates." Luffy asked, "Aren't you also a bad person in the eyes of others?" Zoro sighed, "I don't care what others think of me, as long as I have a clear conscience." Luffy smiled and said, "Then I have decided. You will be my partner." Zoro was speechless, "Don't act on your own." At this time, Lin Hai came over and smiled playfully, "Zoro, that stupid son is going to execute you tomorrow. So, what do you think?" Zoro exclaimed, "What did you say?" Lin Hai stepped forward and poked Zoro's head with his hand, mocking him, "Do you want to repeat it again? Just now in the restaurant, the guy named Belumbo said that he would execute you tomorrow, right?" "Hey!" Zoro fumed, "UBD. Luffy stepped forward and said, "I heard it just now in the restaurant." Hey Zoro, those Marines have decided to execute you. If you resist, you will be the enemy of the Marines. If you don't resist, then you will be killed. After a pause, Luffy smiled evilly and said half-threateningly, so are you going to let us just leave you alone and get killed? Or are you going to become a pirate with us? Zoro exclaimed again, are you a demon? After shouting, Zoro also understood the current situation and said seriously, if that's the case, then there is nothing I can do. Since I am destined to be a pirate, even if my reputation is not good, I will make my name known to the world. But I have something to say in advance. My dream is to become the world's best swordsman. If you prevent me from realizing my ambition, you can commit seppuku and make amends to me. Luffy was intoxicated. The world's best swordsman? The Pirates King's partner should have such a title. Zoro, how dare you say that, but my sword was taken by that stupid son of mine. It should be in the building in the back. Luffy immediately said, I'll get it back for you. Zoro couldn't help but remind him, you're going the wrong way. Without listening to Zoro's words, Luffy ran a distance outside the base, grabbed the railing with both hands, and then used his rubber fruit ability to bounce and jump directly to the top of the marine building. Noticing Luffy's stretched arms, Zoro couldn't help but ask, what kind of monster is he? Lin Hai couldn't help but want to provoke Zoro, and said, he ate the devil fruit, which means that our captain is a rubber man. There are many people with special abilities like those in Grand Line. Why do you have such an expression? Or are you ignorant? The people around Lin Hai had dark lines on their faces. Zoro gritted his teeth and said slowly, UBD, sooner or later, I will chop you up. Lin Hai stood in front of Zoro with his arms folded across his chest. In the confused eyes of everyone, he smiled slyly and said, come on, I'm right in front of you, come and chop me up. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a flirtatious operation. Zoro stared at Lin Hai and couldn't help but said, UBD. Lin Hai continued to laugh and said, come on, if you are my partner, come and chop me up. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a flirtatious operation. Kabi's eyes twitched, and he quickly reminded, Mr. Lin Hai, since Mr. Zoro is already your partner, shouldn't you untie his rope first? Lin Hai pretended to be scared and explained, what if I untie his rope and he really comes to chop me? Do you really want me to be chopped? Kabi. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a flirtatious operation. Why is there no triple combo? What a loss, it's a rare chance for inspiration. Before Lin Hai could feel depressed, many Marines had already walked out of the door of the marine building. Chapter 12. When Zoro saw the town's supreme ruler, Captain Monka, he immediately said anxiously, hey, help me untie my rope. Ignoring Zoro's words, Lin Hai's attention was already attracted by Monka. Look, he is over 2 meters tall, wearing a white coat, with a big axe tied to his hand and a small door on his mouth. Lin Hai was very confused. How did he eat? And how did he go to the toilet with such a big axe in his hand? Looking at Monka's coquettish swaying walk, Lin Hai's eyes lit up and said, Sije, hey, how about that big guy leading the group come to our ship and be the chef? In that case, we can even save on knives. And, do you use an axe to scrape when you go to the toilet? Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a flirtatious operation. As Lin Hai asked the question, everyone present was stunned. Zoro behind Lin Hai forgot to ask Lin Hai to help him untie the rope. All the Marines opposite Lin Hai looked at Monka in fear. From the expression on Monka's face, it was clear that he was about to go berserk. But Lin Hai didn't have that awareness, so he continued, I heard your name is Monka, right? But I think you should be called Axe Brother. As he spoke, Lin Hai looked Monka up and down and commented, well, this shape and figure are quite suitable, but the door at the mouth is a bit too much. May I ask how do you eat? The whole audience was silent, and everyone was confused by Lin Hai's train of thought. However, Lin Hai ignored their expressions and focused only on Monka. Seeing that he seemed to be too angry to speak, Lin Hai asked tentatively, Brother Axe, what's wrong with you? Are you constipated? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Then use Xiekyun Li. I happen to have this medicine here at a bargain price, only 9.98. Look, congratulations to the host for completing such a cool operation. Monka could no longer bear it. Without asking where the people in front of him came from, he ordered the Marines behind him, what are you waiting for? Shoot and execute these rebels directly. In an instant, many marines were ready and pointed their guns in the direction of Lin Hai. Zoro couldn't help but drip a few drops of cold sweat on his forehead. Is this the end? Noticing the situation of Zoro and Kobe, Lin Hai was speechless for a while. Why are you panicking? Watch carefully. Then, he took off his slippers and introduced them. My slippers are made in East Blue Windmill Village. Damn. Before I finished the introduction, the marine on the opposite side started shooting. Space field, space exchange. Lin Hai spun his hands in the air, and all the bullets that were shot at him changed direction and reflected to the marine's feet. Call out. Lin Hai disappeared on the spot. Just as everyone was looking for where Lin Hai had gone, Monka let out a scream. Pa. Lin Hai slapped Monka on the face with his slippers and said unhappily, do you think you are so awesome? I don't like people looking at me like that. They call you axe brother, and you shoot me. Pa pa pa. The slippers made intimate contact with my cheek, and the sound was quite crisp. Ah. Monka didn't know what was going on. He didn't understand how this guy in front of him appeared. Moreover, the force was too great. Belaying. There was a sound of glass breaking above the marine building. It turned out that Luffy had returned after helping Zoro find a sword. Seeing Lin Hai hitting someone with his slippers, Luffy asked Zoro in confusion, what happened to Lin Hai? Hey? Lin Hai, I didn't expect you to be a bully. I want to fight you in a duel. Luffy exhaled 2 streams of air from his nostrils, and everyone turned their heads mechanically to look at this weirdo Luffy. Lin Hai stopped beating Monka because he had passed out. But Luffy is here to cause trouble? It seems necessary to beat him up too. So, Lin Hai stood up, pointed his slippers at Luffy and said, what do you want? Do you believe I will beat you up? Luffy was eager to try. Who's afraid of who? Come on. Kobe quickly stepped forward and hugged Luffy's waist to explain what had just happened. Ah ha ha ha. Luffy scratched his head and laughed awkwardly. What? So that's how it is. Why didn't you say so earlier? Lin Hai is really a good person. Zoro on the side was so angry that he couldn't help but yelled, stop it, you 2 bastards. Untie my rope quickly. Monka was knocked down. To everyone's surprise, the marines ignored Luffy and the others and stared at the unconscious Monka. Then there was a burst of cheers. Right leg. Tyrant Monka has been defeated. Everyone, we are free. Monka was really knocked down. Am I dreaming? Hit me and try. Ha ha ha, finally, I don't have to do things against my will anymore. Lin Hai, who was free, also opened his own system interface. Host Lin Hai strength, 1400, 1300 plus 100, agility, 140, 130 plus 10, stamina, 2700, 2300 plus 400, Conqueror's Haki, LV2, stuns the opponent, can be controlled and released freely. For those with weak will, it will stun them directly. Flirtatious coins, 7800.16800.1 plus 1000 space backpack, knife, sword, alias, Gao Feng friendly reminder from the system, host, please keep up the good work and be even better. Lin Hai opened the interface of Luffy and Zoro again. Luffy strength, 2000 agility, 155 stamina, 3700 potential, when faced with a strong opponent, becomes stronger, potential is unlimited, turning misfortune into fortune. Zoro strength, 1500 agility, 130 stamina, 2500 potential, stronger when facing a strong opponent, unlimited potential, with violent attributes. When facing the enemy's taunt, there is a chance to hit the opponent in the face, severe road idiot. Seeing their system interface, Lin Hai couldn't help but sigh, these 2 guys are really monsters. But why is there no potential display on his attribute panel? Before Lin Hai could continue thinking, Luffy had already untied the rope. Zoro, who had been tied up for too long and had not eaten for so many days, lost his balance and fell to the ground. Lin Hai asked curiously, Zoro, I heard you were tied there for more than 20 days. What do you do when you need to pee or go to the toilet? Everyone looked at Zoro curiously. Zoro's face turned red, and he said angrily, Lin Hai, I'm going to chop you up. Nami, who was at the building, was stunned for a moment when she heard Lin Hai's words, then she covered her mouth and couldn't help laughing. Chapter 13. In a restaurant in Shields Town, just after dealing with Monka, Lin Hai and others were invited by the little girl to have dinner here. Ah, I'm so full. After all, I haven't eaten for so many days. Zoro rubbed his bloated belly comfortably. But when I saw the stacks of small bowls in front of Lin Hai and Luffy, I couldn't help but wonder, why do you eat more than me? Luffy smiled and said, because it's delicious. Lin Hai explained, Luffy was driven out of the village because he ate too much, so he had no choice but to become a pirate. Puff. The orange drink sprayed out of Kabi's nostrils, and he couldn't help but exclaimed, is that so? Then what Luffy said to me before about risking my life was all a lie. Lin Hai nodded and smiled, yes, you were fooled by Luffy. Ha ha ha. Zoro nodded in agreement, I think Lin Hai is right. Luffy was driven out by the people in the village. By the way, what about you, Lin Hai? Me. Lin Hai pointed at himself, and everyone looked at him curiously. Ahem. Lin Hai slicked his hair in a showy manner and said, as handsome as I am, I didn't want to show my face in public. But Luffy was too shameless and dragged me on board to act as the face of the pirates. Luffy was about to retort when Lin Hai directly stuffed a chicken leg into his mouth. Zoro glanced at Lin Hai, his face full of black lines as he changed the subject. Luffy, you said you wanted to be the king of pirates, so you must have recruited a lot of people, where is that person? Luffy swallowed the chicken leg in his mouth without chewing it, and then said with a lingering look, just the 3 of us. 3. Zoro muttered, his face full of black lines. What kind of pirates group is this? Luffy said nonchalantly, what does it matter? The 3 of us are all very strong. Very strong? Zoro accepted this reason, but still asked, where's the ship? Where is our pirate's ship? Lin Hai pointed out the window with a knife and fork and saw a small boat at the coast. At that moment, a puppy was peeing in the direction of the boat. Seeing Zoro's twitching eyebrows, Lin Hai curiously followed his line of sight and immediately shouted, how dare you pee on my boat? Get out of here now. Luffy waved his hand nonchalantly, don't worry, it's just a puppy peeing, there's no need to get angry, right? Lin Hai lifted Luffy's collar and asked, the pirate's ship is the face of the entire crew. If someone peed on your head, would you think it was okay? Ah! Luffy said quickly, what are you waiting for? Wait for me, you stinky dog, I'm going to beat you up. Zoro on the side slapped his forehead. For some reason, he always felt that he was on the wrong boat. After sorting out his things, Kobe joined Marine and parted ways with Luffy and the others. After getting on the boat, Lin Hai couldn't help but ask, hey Luffy, why can't we see Nami along the way? Does anyone among us know how to get to the next island? Luffy shook his head. I don't know, but if we just keep floating like this, we'll eventually reach the next island, right? Hey! Zoro was speechless. Is this even possible? Ha ha ha! Lin Hai couldn't help but complain, why not? Last time we almost drowned in the sea because we were floating. Luffy patted Lin Hai's shoulder and comforted her, don't worry, we're not dead, are we? Ha ha ha. Zoro thought for a moment, leave my fate to God? No, I want to get off the boat. Pull to the shore quickly. Soon, the boat was sailing in the vast ocean. Luffy asked, Lin Hai, in addition to finding a navigator and a cook, we must first find a musician. Musician? Zoro asked in surprise. Hey Luffy, what do you think sailing is? Lin Hai explained, we want to be a tasteful pirates, so of course we have to find a musician to support the team. Especially during the battle, it would be fun to have him play an exciting background music. Luffy's eyes lit up, background music, background music. Zoro was furious. Stop it, you 2 bastards. If you keep rocking, the boat will capsize. Lin Hai patted Zoro's shoulder and took out a cup of tea from his space backpack. Zoro, don't worry too much about the outcome. The process is the most important. Especially when you meet a beautiful woman, remember, they are all mine. Luffy didn't listen to Lin Hai at all, but drooled, Lin Hai, give me a cup too, I want one too. Zoro was confused. Where did this tea come from? By the way, when you were at the marine base, you disappeared strangely. Could it be that you are also a demon fruit power? Lin Hai took out 2 cups of tea from his space backpack and handed them to the 2 of them, explaining, I am a person who has eaten the space fruit. Although I have incredible abilities, I will be rejected by the sea water. If I fall into the sea water and no one saves me, I will die. For example. Lin Hai put down the cup in his hand and jumped into the sea. Hey, even so, you don't have to. Before Zoro could finish his words, he saw Lin Hai swimming happily in the sea. Zoro turned to Luffy dumbly and asked, is he really the demon fruit power? Luffy nodded, yet. Zoro couldn't help but grab Luffy's head and pointed at Lin Hai and asked, then tell me what's going on. Luffy was full of jealousy. Lin Hai, come back soon, or you might get a leg cramp and drown. Zoro's face was filled with black lines. How can you curse your partner like this? Explain to me how Lin Hai, if he is the demon fruit power, can still swim freely in the sea. After Lin Hai returned to the boat and explained to Zoro, Zoro roughly understood the weakness of the demon fruit power, but it was Lin Hai's special case that he couldn't accept. So, Zoro said, I think Luffy is right. Why didn't you get a leg cramp just now? Lin Hai looked at the two with disdain and said in a very annoying way, jealousy, envy, hatred? Ah, he is too outstanding, there is nothing I can do, even God is so kind to me, what can I do? Drown? Are you kidding me? Pa! Unable to bear it any longer, Zoro said, Luffy, let me go. I'm going to kill him. Luffy shook his head in dissuasion, Zoro, calm down, we are partners. Lin Hai said, I'm right here, come and chop me up, if you're my friend, come and chop me up. Chapter 14. The three of them had some fun on the boat to kill time during the voyage. Soon, Luffy said curiously, hey, look, there seem to be 3 people in distress over there. Let's go and rescue them. Zoro agreed, but Lin Hai disagreed, because Lin Hai could tell from their attire that they should be members of the buggy pirates. But letting them get on board was exactly what Lin Hai wanted, because no one on the ship knew how to reach the next island, which was Orange Town. As soon as the 3 men dressed as clowns got on the boat, they drew their knives as soon as they said thank you. One of them said, hey, now I order you to hand over this ship to us. We, the buggy pirates, have accepted it. Duan. These 3 pirates are quite funny. They immediately turned from plunderers to beggars for mercy. Lin Hai was speechless and said, can you 3 stop talking to us with such disgusting faces? If I remember correctly, you were the ones who started looting first, right? It's like we're bullying you. By the way, you guys just said you were from the buggy pirates? So Buggy should be around here, right? Take us to find him now. Luffy asked in confusion, you know that Buggy? Lin Hai shook his head and said, I heard that guy loves treasure very much. He often goes ashore to plunder the wealth of civilians and destroys the buildings there. You say, is Buggy asking for trouble? Zoro nodded and said, what a classless pirates, always bullying civilians and causing trouble for them. It's time to teach him a lesson. Luffy echoed, go to that place, I'm going to beat Buggy up. The 3 Buggy crew members were hoping that these people would go find Buggy, and then they would see how Buggy would torture them. Lin Hai on the side frowned and lectured, Luffy, Zoro, we can't use this as an excuse to beat Buggy. Why? X2 Lin Hai explained, who are we? Pirates. Just imagine, when we arrived at the town, we found destroyed buildings everywhere, and there was no place to drink water. You know, as pirates who have traveled a long distance, but ended up not having anything to drink, how could we feel good? So, as free and unfettered pirates, how can we tolerate such an outcome? So I am in a bad mood right now. As pirates, we are in a bad mood so we beat up Buggy. Do we need a reason? Suga. Luffy punched his left palm, and a 500W light bulb lit up next to his head. Zoro on the side had a gleam in his eyes. Being a pirate seems to be very interesting. But Zoro soon felt bad about himself. Lin Hai and Luffy put their arms around each other's shoulders and shouted, freedom, freedom. Zoro quickly steadied himself and shouted, stop it, you 2 bastards. If you keep rocking, the boat will capsize. Because Lin Hai had a space backpack, everyone had no shortage of food, and Luffy did not use his rubber fruit to catapult into the big bird's mouth like in the original book, thus avoiding that plot. Soon, Orange Town appeared before everyone's eyes. After the group landed, Lin Hai couldn't help but say in frustration, look, this town is so desolate, there's not even a soul to be found. I'm so pd off. Let's go settle accounts with Buggy and ask him to compensate us for ruining our good mood. Oh. Zoro asked with interest, then how much compensation do you want from him? Lin Hai casually said, we are pirates, we should ask him for compensation, but if we don't take his bailee, that would be sad, do you understand? Zoro raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but exclaimed, "You are really a monster." Ha ha ha. Luffy stepped forward and said, "Let's go and steal their Baileys." The three of them were walking when they heard the sound of someone chasing them not far away. "Little thief cat, stop right there and return our nautical chart. If Captain Buggy finds out the charts are missing, he'll tear us to pieces. This BCH is so bold that she even dared to steal Captain Buggy's things. I must teach her a lesson later." Luffy and the other two stopped immediately. It turned out that the woman being chased was Nami. Looking at Nami running, Lin Hai waved her hand and said, "Hey, big-breasted girl, bah, Nami, it looks like you're in trouble, by then." Everyone was stunned. Shouldn't there be a hero saving the beauty? Luffy turned around and said, "Hey Lin Hai, isn't she the navigator we are looking for? How can we not save her?" Zoro interrupted, "Hey, they're already here, what do you say we should do?" Lin Hai said with a smile, "What should we do? What do you think we are here for? Beat up Buggy, and beat up his crew as well." Before Nami could call for help, Luffy had already beaten them down with punches and kicks. Nami stared at the scene blankly and couldn't help but exclaimed, "Silk Cake 1." Nami's eyes sparkled as she reacted, and she suggested, "Hey, can we make a deal? I'll be your navigator for a while until you find a new one. But in exchange, you have to help me steal Buggy's treasure. I think this is a good deal." Luffy said, "I'm not interested in those. You should find someone else." Lin Hai agreed, "We are pirates, not thieves. But we are going to look for Buggy, do you know where he is? It doesn't matter as long as we can steal Buggy's treasure." Since Lin Hai has said that he is going to find Buggy, it seems that he is going to cause trouble for Buggy, otherwise he would not attack his men. Thinking of this, Nami said, "I know where he is, you guys come with me. It's not too late to go now. Let me tell you first that Buggy is a big pirate with a bounty of 15 million Baileys. Before we go to see him, we should formulate a strategy." Luffy ignored it and said, "Stop talking nonsense. I want to beat him to death. Zoro, cut him. Lin Hai, fight him to death. Yoshi." X3 Nami slapped her forehead, "I'm talking to you guys." "Oh, forget it, but you better be careful." Lin Hai turned to Nami and said, "What are you worried about? What is there to worry about? We are very strong. For example, Luffy can eat a cow, and Zoro can drink several jars of wine. As for me, I can wake up every day by being handsome myself." The three people following Lin Hai almost fell down. Chapter 15. Under Nami's guidance, Luffy and his companions soon arrived at Buggy's base camp. At this time, the Buggy pirates were holding a banquet, and Lin Hai and his friends were wondering if they were in a circus. Before Lin Hai and the others could react, Luffy smelled the aroma of the food and went up to eat and drink with the Buggy pirates. Nami looked at Lin Hai and Zoro in confusion, her eyes asking, "Is that your captain?" Lin Hai and Zoro looked at each other and both couldn't help blushing. It was really embarrassing. "We came here to ruin the show, but our leader went off to eat and drink with others. Can you be a little more ambitious?" "No matter what," Lin Hai yelled, "that guy." Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Lin Hai curiously. Lin Hai walked up to Luffy, and in Luffy's puzzled look, Lin Hai said, "Lend me your slippers." After saying that, Lin Hai picked up a chicken leg and started chewing it. Luffy gave his slippers to Lin Hai and started eating again. Lin Hai pointed at Buggy who was sitting in the central shed with his slippers and said, "That guy named Kaiba, stop looking around, I'm talking about you." Buggy couldn't help but retort, "Who are you?" "My name is Buggy, Buggy, not Kaiba. Don't pronounce someone else's name the wrong way." Lin Hai swung the slippers in his hand 360 degrees in the air, held them again and pointed at Buggy and said, "I don't care who you are the one who destroyed this town? When we arrived here, we didn't even have a sip of water to drink. You know, I'm very angry now. But as long as you hand over your treasure and get out of Orange Town, we will reluctantly give you a light beating. Otherwise, I will use your big, round, red nose to dye the sea behind you red." At this moment, everyone stared at Lin Hai in amazement, and then looked at Buggy in fear, because what Buggy hated most was people saying that his nose was big, round, and red. What's more, Lin Hai actually gave such a reason right at the beginning and even threatened the Buggy pirates. Do you really think his Buggy pirates are just a decoration? Ka. Buggy was extremely angry. "FK, who the hell are you? Die beautifully, Buggy, Spinning dart. Space field. Lin Hai used his ability, disappeared instantly, and then slapped Buggy hard on the cheek with his slippers. Buggy! Buggy groaned and flew out. Boom, belling. Buggy was knocked away by Lin Hai, knocking over the food on the table. Nami stared at Lin Hai's actions blankly, full of confusion. How did Lin Hai disappear just now, and how did he appear in front of Buggy? At this time, Luffy stopped eating, walked over to Lin Hai and complained, Lin Hai, leave Buggy to me. Lin Hai nodded and said, okay. Everyone looked at the direction where Buggy was photographed, and there was a cloud of dust. When the dust settled, Buggy was standing there as if nothing had happened, but there were already two people standing next to him, Buggy and Machi, who were Buggy's right-hand men. Seeing Buggy riding on a unicycle, Zoro immediately became interested. Luffy, leave the guy with the sword to me. Luffy nodded, yeah. On the other side of Lin Hai, Buggy asked, who are you? Bounty hunters. Luffy cried, no, we are pirates. The two next to you are my partners. Oh. Buggy looked at Luffy and the other two dangerously, curiously, are you here to steal my treasure? Or is it like what that BD with the slippers just said? Before Luffy could answer, an old man came out from a distance. The old man was wearing armor and holding a weapon. He said, Buggy, I want to duel with you. Buggy said angrily, don't interrupt other people's conversations, who are you? The old man said, I am the mayor of this town. We have worked hard for decades to build these buildings. How dare you destroy our treasures like this? Ha ha ha. Buggy interrupted, you must be joking. These houses are not treasures. Only glittering treasures can be considered treasures. Don't make me laugh to death. The mayor said angrily, people like you will never understand my feelings. Come on, let's fight to the death. Before the mayor could finish speaking, Lin Hai hit him on the back of the neck with a knife, and the mayor fainted. Nami exclaimed, Lin Hai you. Why? Luffy said simply, it's in the way. Seeing that Nami still didn't understand, Zoro explained, if you don't knock him out, he'll go and die. Lin Hai was speechless, you guys think too much, don't you? I'm just upset that he interrupted me just now. Nami rolled her eyes at Lin Hai and muttered, you're just being stubborn. At this time, Luffy adjusted his hat, took a deep breath, and shouted, big red nose. The echoes are lingering, the sound is so wonderful. Ka ka ka. Buggy's eyes widened. That BD in the straw hat, die in style. Soon, Luffy and Buggy started fighting, Zoro fought with Buggy, and Machi chose to fight with Lin Hai. Nami secretly ran away on her own, probably to steal treasure. Machi yelled, Leaky! A lion as big as a small house came out from the darkness. Machi ordered, crush him for me. Lin Hai glared at the lion, and the lion backed away in fear, wishing it had 8 legs so it could stay away from that scary guy. When Makai saw Li Ji running away inexplicably and was about to chase him, Lin Hai appeared beside Makai with shave, grabbed Makai's shoulders and shouted, go, Pikachu! The result satisfied Lin Hai. Machi bumped into the lion and both flew out at the same time. Lin Hai couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Even though he had trained his abilities, these guys were really weak and it seemed that it had no effect at all on improving his abilities. Lin Hai was free and found that all the Buggy crew members were lying on the ground pretending to be dead, but Lin Hai was not interested in this, so he just let them do what they wanted. Not far away, Zoro was fighting fiercely with Buggy. Looking at their fight, Lin Hai couldn't help but shake his head. Although Buggy's fighting style was fancy, Zoro's moves were also fancy. Is this what they call if you don't have enough strength, you can make up for it with new moves? Chapter 16. Buggy, so you are the famous bounty hunter of East Blue, Roronoa. Zoro. I am so lucky today. I heard that if I defeat you, I will become famous all over the world. Zoro said disdainfully, my goal is to be the world's #1. How could I lose to a small fry like you? But I want to ask, are you performing stunts? Lin Hai on the side couldn't bear to watch it anymore. If they wanted to fight, then just fight. It was such a waste of his expectations. He decided to go and watch the duel between Luffy and Buggy. As they approached the place where Luffy and Buggy were fighting, they saw Nami coming out carrying 2 large packages. Lin Hai couldn't help but step forward and said, little thief, whoever sees it gets it. Nami held the 2 large packages cautiously, what do you mean whoever sees it gets a share? These are all mine. What do you mean your stuff, That's mine. Buggy rushed over from not far away and said angrily, give me back my treasure. Nami confidently explained, what are you talking about? I stole this and it's mine now. Lin Hai nodded and agreed, if it is yours, ask these treasures and see if they will answer you. Buggy scowled, what kind of education did you bastards receive? If you steal someone else's things, they become yours. Tisk. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, you have a high level of education, so you specialize in robbing the poor of their wealth for yourself. Ha ha ha. Nami cried, exactly, the pirates are actually here to educate the thieves, it's really hilarious. Ka ka ka. Buggy showed a few knives and looked up and said, you two little brats, show me your splendor. Before Buggy could finish, a long fist suddenly came from a distance, and Luffy roared, a hole, your opponent is me. Buggy was knocked against the wall by Luffy's punch. Nami stared at Buggy flying away and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Did Buggy lose? How is that possible? That's Buggy God tier. The result was obvious. Buggy got up again and started fighting with Luffy. However, Buggy was fighting and chasing Nami at the same time. It seemed that Buggy cared too much about the treasure. In a battle, distraction is a taboo. The result was just like in the original story, Buggy was blown away. Lin Hai, who was sitting on the side, clapped his hands and complained, Luffy, you're playing too slowly, aren't you? Luffy explained, that guy is such a monster. He keeps splitting into so many pieces. If I hadn't found his weakness, where his feet can't leave the ground, I really don't know how I would have defeated him. Hey! Zoro stepped forward and said, looks like you guys have resolved the battle as well. At this time, a group of townspeople came over not far away, and one of them asked, hey, have you seen our mayor? Lin Hai pointed to the area below the house. Several townspeople hurried over to check it out. Look quickly, is the mayor still alive? Who on earth is it? How dare they treat our mayor like this? It must be those pirates. Let's go fight them. Nami couldn't help but remind him, well, your mayor is fine, he just fainted. One of the townspeople asked, little girl, how did you know that? By the way, who are you? Luffy smiled innocently and explained, oh, we are pirates. Your mayor was knocked unconscious by Lin Hai. At that time. Ahem, Luffy was explaining in a serious manner, and didn't notice that the eyes of the people around him were twitching. After hearing Luffy's explanation, the townspeople suddenly became upset, you are actually pirates, and you even injured our mayor. Seeing that the townspeople were actually using tools as weapons, they looked at Lin Hai with unfriendly expressions. Lin Hai had no choice but to step forward, pull Luffy and say, why are you so mean to me? I was the one who beat up your mayor, but he is my captain. Lin Hai pulled Luffy forward and said again, if there is anything, my captain will take care of it. If there is anything, go to him. My captain is the man who wants to become the king of pirates. But you have to be careful that he will come back to beat you up after he becomes the king of pirates. So, if you are not afraid, just come at me, you stinky townspeople. As soon as he finished speaking, before anyone had time to react, Lin Hai had already picked up Nami and ran away. Everything happened so fast like a tornado, a gust of wind blew across the street, and Lin Hai was no longer there. Zoro was almost defeated by Lin Hai's operation. After coming to his senses, Zoro asked playfully, what should I do now? My captain. Ha ha ha. Luffy turned and ran, let's run too. Nani. They finally got rid of the townspeople. Because Luffy's boat was too small, they simply borrowed the slightly larger boat of Buggy's crew next to it. Soon, several people sailed away from the island on the boat. After they were safe, Nami couldn't help but ask Lin Hai, you just pinched my buttocks, right? Zoro and Luffy immediately perked up and couldn't help but PK up their ears to listen to the 8 trigrams. Lin Hai quickly denied it, no, I was running too fast just now, maybe I bumped into it accidentally. Nami crossed her arms and continued to ask with interest, once or twice can be considered an accident, but what about 8 times? Luffy on the side couldn't help but said with disdain, Lin Hai, so you are this kind of person. Zoro agreed, I knew Lin Hai was a pervert. If Nami hadn't been watching him, Lin Hai would have definitely argued with them. How could they be so aggressive? They definitely left them behind when they ran away, and now they are taking revenge on him. Seeing that Lin Hai didn't answer, Nami continued, no, this is too much of a loss for me, you have to pay me 800,000 baileys. Lin Hai stared at Nami with wide eyes and exclaimed, who do you think you are? I just saved you, 800,000 baileys. Nami nodded kaido, 800,000 baileys, if you don't have it now, just pay me back later. Damn. She is so shameless, right? So, Lin Hai stepped forward and suggested, Nami, I don't have that many baileys, how about I give you myself? As a Pucci, ha ha ha. Lin Hai, I didn't expect you to be so shameless. I am dying of laughter. Ha ha ha. Although Nami has seen a lot of scenes, she is still only a 17-year-old girl. Faced with Lin Hai's shameless proposal, she couldn't help but blush. The embarrassed Nami glared at the three of them fiercely. Immediately, the three of them quickly shut their mouths and sat aside obediently. Lin Hai quickly called up his own attribute panel, host Lin Hai strength, 1700, 1400 plus 300, agility, 160, 140 plus 20, stamina, 3200, 2700 plus 500, Conqueror's Haki, LV2, stuns the opponent, can be controlled and released freely. For those with weak will, it will stun them directly. Flirtatious coins, 9300.17800.1 plus 1500 space backpack, knife, sword, alias, Gao Feng friendly reminder from the system, host, please keep up the good work and be even better. Chapter 17. The boat had just sailed for a while when Nami caught a glimpse of the bag of treasure out of the corner of his eye and vaguely sensed that something was wrong. Why is there only one bag? Where is the other one? Noticing that something was wrong with Nami, Luffy asked, what's wrong? Nami. Nami exclaimed, there are two bags of treasure here, why is one bag missing? Lin Hai picked his ears. Kaido, I returned one bag to the villagers. Nami said angrily, that's mine. Lin Hai said disdainfully, that's the hard-earned money of the townspeople. Yours? How shameless. Before Lin Hai could finish her words, Nami pushed her violently into the sea. Lin Hai quickly said, stop it, do you want to drown me? We are partners. Nami was almost mad and retorted, who would be your partner? I will drown you now. Luffy on the side said, Nami, since you like it so much, we can go back and get it back. Luffy was also dragged and drowned by Nami. Luffy quickly said, I can't swim, I'll die. Also, it wasn't me who did this, let go. Nami sneered, I'm going to drown you because you can't swim. You're his captain, and you can't escape responsibility for what he does. Ha ha ha. Zoro looked at these two embarrassed guys and suddenly felt very happy. Fortunately, after Nami vented his anger for a while, he let go of Lin Hai and Luffy. At this time, Lin Hai quickly bought a mirror and a comb from the system and fixed her hair. Because she was flooded by Nami just now, her hair was all messed up. Zoro on the side couldn't help but ask curiously, Lin Hai, what are you doing? Lin Hai's serious kaido, hairstyle is a man's soul. In my hometown, people often say that the head can be cut off, the blood can flow, but the hairstyle cannot be messed up. Do you understand? Tisk. Zoro turned his back to Lin Hai and muttered, boring, doing unnecessary things. Nami on the side frowned. But Luffy is different, with a cool 4:6 hairstyle. Is this the romance of men? Luffy couldn't help but said, Lin Hai, quickly give me a hairstyle. Although Zoro said he was bored, he still secretly looked back and observed. Soon, Lin Hai's 4:6 hairstyle changed, and Luffy got a slicked back hairstyle. Then Lin Hai took out two pairs of sunglasses from the system space and put them on. Lin Hai and Luffy looked at each other, put their arms around each other's shoulders again, and shouted, romance, romance. Duan, Duan. Nami said angrily, are you trying to capsize the boat? Ha ha ha. Zoro on the side held his stomach and laughed continuously. But after being glared at by Nami, Zoro quickly shut his mouth. Nami, this BCH, is really unreasonable. She hits me at every turn and my newly done hairstyle is messed up again. What can a gentleman endure, and what cannot he endure? Lin Hai was very upset and stood up and pointed angrily, Nami, don't think that I won't hit you just because you are a woman. I am afraid of myself when I get angry, you. Can you try moving again? Will you move again? FK, don't hit my face. Nami clapped her hands and raised an eyebrow at Luffy, who quickly pouted and looked off to the horizon. Zoro, who was laughing, quickly imitated Luffy and looked towards the horizon. After sailing for a while, Lin Hai forgot the pain and walked up to Nami, put his arm around her shoulders and asked, "Nami, how long will it take to get to the next island?" Nami glanced at Lin Hai and said, "Let go." Lin Hai quickly retracted his hand and scratched his head, "I can't help it, I can't help it, who made you have such a good figure?" "Luffy, pervert." "Zoro, what a shame." Lin Hai said angrily, "Who is like you two bastards, one is a foodie and the other is a drunkard." "What did you say?" Lin Hai pulled his sleeves and said, "You two want to fight? Be careful or I'll beat you up and make you cry for your mother." Zoro nodded and said, "Hey, just now someone was beaten to death and begged for mercy." "Opening up scars again?" Lin Hai said angrily, "What did you say?" Nami stepped forward and stood between the two of them, saying, "Stop arguing, it'll probably take half a day to get there. If we find the navigator there by then, our agreement will be complete." When they heard Nami wanted to leave, they fell silent. Lin Hai immediately hugged Nami's waist and cried, "Nami, will you be our navigator? If I don't see you every day, I feel like I will lose hope in life." Zoro on the side couldn't help but complain, "Hey, your crying is too fake, isn't it?" Lin Hai quickly changed his expression and said, "It's none of your business, go play somewhere else." Then Lin Hai started crying again and said, "Nami, do you know? Ever since I met you, I can't bear to leave you. We are like Ximenqing meeting Pan Jinlian, or Tang Santang meeting the spider spirit." Lin Hai secretly hated himself. Why didn't he remember those love words in his previous life? He didn't know what to say at the critical moment. Nami looked down at Lin Hai's poor performance and said playfully, "What else? Keep going, I'm listening." "Pa." Zoro turned his head and said speechlessly, "What a mess." But Luffy looked at Lin Hai with shining eyes and exclaimed, "Si Gao Yi, Si Gao Yi." Seeing Nami's eyes, Lin Hai quickly let go of her hand and looked up at the sky. "Ah, the sky is so blue today. Ah, the sea is all water. Ah." Nami said angrily, "What are you talking about? Are you done yet? If you keep talking like that, I will throw you into the sea." "Tisk, half a day, how can I pass the time without making a joke?" "Forget it," bored Lin Hai had to just lean aside and sleep. Soon, Lin Hai fell asleep. In the dream, in a busy execution square, people were talking about, how could such a powerful person be captured by Marine? Yeah, it's a shame. I wonder where the Pirates King's treasure is. If we find you, you won't have to worry about anything in your life. I heard that he was captured by Fire Fist Ace. The two fought for 10 days and 10 nights, and in the end, Fire Fist Ace was slightly better. I know this, Marine Hero, Fire Fist Ace. Lin Hai in the square was very confused. Marine Hero Fire Fist Ace? This is such a rip-off. Following the crowd's gaze towards the execution platform, Lin Hai exclaimed, "Isn't this Blackbeard, Teach? This is such a rip-off." When the execution was about to begin, there was silence in the square. People did not dare to speak loudly and just looked at Blackbeard on the execution platform. Suddenly someone said, "King Pirates, where is your treasure? It's the legendary One Piece." On the execution platform, Blackbeard raised his lips slightly, and then said proudly, "Ha ha ha ha, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. Want Nami's photo? Want Robin's stockings? Want Empress lace? Go ahead, I'll put it all there." Ouch! Lin Hai woke up from his dream and couldn't help laughing. It was really. This is such a rip-off. Chapter 18. Waking up, I felt so refreshed. The gentle sea breeze rippled the water, just like Lin Hai's unruly heart. Seeing Lin Hai looking at her, Nami couldn't help but glare at him. "What are you looking at? You're just like a pig." Lin Hai quickly shook his head. This woman was beautiful, but her personality was too bad. She was definitely not suitable as a partner. Luffy, who was sitting at the bow, exclaimed, "Look, there's an island ahead." Suddenly, everyone perked up and could finally get ashore. As soon as he got ashore, Zoro couldn't help but step on the ground and sighed, "It's still more solid to be on land." Lin Hai said with a smile, "Of course I feel relieved, I can buy some wine later." Luffy quickly said, "What are you waiting for? Eat, eat." Nami was speechless. "You should find a ship first, right? That ship won't be able to sail for long." After they walked for a while, Zoro suddenly warned, Luffy, be careful. Bow, bow, bow. A few marbles appeared on the ground. Space field. Usopp, the marble-shooting long-nosed man in the village who was idle all day long, doing nothing and telling lies, suddenly appeared in front of Lin Hai. Usopp was still confused. Lin Hai flicked his nose and exclaimed, come and see, his nose is real. Hey, where did you get your nose done? Everyone couldn't help but look grim, and the three children hiding in the woods were so scared that they left Usopp behind and ran away. Usopp saw the flag on Luffy's ship and thought that the pirates were going to invade the village. After some discussion, Usopp and the three children decided to scare away the pirates who came to the village. Unexpectedly, after firing a few slingshots, Usopp found himself inexplicably appearing at the bottom of the high cliff, in front of Lin Hai. At this moment, Usopp did not hear Lin Hai's words at all. Instead, he looked at the high cliff above and then at the front, and said calmly, what on earth did you do to me? Let me tell you, pirates, I have 8 senjus. If you don't leave, I will order them to take action. At this time, Luffy stepped forward and said, your name is Usopp, right? Your father is Usopp, right? Usopp was surprised, how do you know my father? My father's name is indeed Usopp. Luffy explained, I knew your father when I was a kid. He was on Shanks' ship at that time. It's really nostalgic, ha 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 ha. When I first saw you, I guessed that you were Usopp's son because you two look exactly the same. Usopp was surprised and said, really? I didn't expect my father to be on such a famous pirate's ship. Is he still on his ship now? Luffy shook his head and said, we haven't seen each other in years, but he should still be on Shanks' ship. Ha ha ha. Usopp said, since you know my father, we are friends. I will treat you to a meal. Luffy's eyes lit up and he said, really? You're such a good person, Usopp. Nami quickly moved away from Luffy. What on earth is going on with this guy? Oh my. As they were walking forward, Usopp reacted and quickly asked Lin Hai, how did you change me from one place to another? Are you a monster? Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, I am the devil fruit who ate the space fruit. In the ability field I opened, I can freely control everything inside, whether it is a person or an object. Except for Luffy, everyone else looked at Lin Hai in surprise. Usopp couldn't help but exclaimed, your ability is too pervert, isn't it? Doesn't this mean that you are invincible? Lin Hai said with a smile, invincible, there are still many powers that you don't know about. Forget it, it's quite troublesome to explain, so I'll leave it for you to slowly discover it by yourselves. Usopp exclaimed, the sea is full of wonders. I didn't expect that something like devil fruit really existed. Nami said with a smile, what's so strange about that? Luffy is also a user with special abilities who ate the devil fruit. Luffy turned his head and stretched his cheeks, introducing himself, I am a user with special abilities who ate the rubber fruit. Nani? Usopp was startled. Lin Hai said disdainfully, what a fuss. Zoro next to him can use 3 swords at the same time. Usopp looked Zoro up and down and asked curiously, if you use one in each hand, how do you use the other one? Zoro rolled his eyes and said, you guys are so annoying, just go into the village. Lin Hai whispered in Usopp's ear secretly, use your mouth to bite the remaining handful and hit them. Isn't it amazing? Assholes. Zoro stared at the 2 men and said, believe it or not, I will chop both of you off. Ha ha ha. Cheers. Usopp took a few people to a small restaurant in the village to eat. Usopp couldn't help but ask, Zoro, you are the famous pirates hunter, Roronoa. Zoro? Sije. Zoro explained, I am no longer a pirates hunter. I am now a member of their ship. After they ate for a while, Nami asked, Usopp, since Luffy knows your father, I wonder if we can find a partner who can drive a boat and a big ship in your village. Usopp, as you can see this is a small village. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Zoro said with amusement, there is a big villa on the hill. Nami, is he Usopp's friend? Can you ask him to help with some money? Usopp, that won't work. Ah, I suddenly remembered that I have something else to do. I'm very familiar with the boss here. You guys just eat and drink. I'm leaving now. The others watched Usopp hurried out of the store, and Nami couldn't help but feel depressed. Looking at the few people eating and drinking without any care, Nami couldn't help but ask, aren't you worried that you won't be able to sail without a ship and a navigator? Luffy consoled her, Don't worry, Nami. There will always be a ship. Let's eat first. Ah. Lin Hai, that's my chicken drumstick. Zoro, Lin Hai ubd, go order the wine yourself. Nami slapped her forehead, she was so tired. I'm so full. As they were resting on the chairs, 3 children who had escaped from the coast rushed into the store. One of them stepped forward and asked, "What did you do to our captain Usopp?" It turned out that after the 3 children escaped, they came back to save Usopp. Looking at Luffy's bulging belly, they couldn't help but said in horror, You guys are not going to give Usopp to." Zoro showed an evil look and said with evil humor, "That's right, your captain Usopp has been eaten by us, he he he." Ah! A monster. Chapter 19. Ah, it's so noisy. Nami couldn't help but get angry because she couldn't stand the 3 little kids' constant startling. However, the 3 children were even more terrified when they saw the angry Nami. The 3 of them couldn't help but hug each other. Ah, hag. Ha ha ha. Luffy explained, "Your Usopp was halfway through his meal when he seemed to have something to do and left." One of them, Onion Head, asked, "Is this really the case?" A Garlic Head suddenly remembered, "I know, Usopp should go to tell a story to Miss Kaya." Luffy said disdainfully, "What?" It turns out that Usopp is a man who forgets his friends for the sake of beauty. One of the kids with green pepper hair retorted, "That's not true. Miss Kaya has been unable to get over the grief since her parents passed away. It was Usopp who told her stories every day that gradually made Miss Kaya cheerful and her health improved." Garlic Head agreed, "That's right, you are not allowed to say that about our captain Usopp." Luffy exclaimed, "So Usopp is a great man." Lin Hai patted Luffy on the shoulder and couldn't help but say, "Your ability to accept is too strong, right? You just follow the trend, one moment this, one moment that." Nami quickly stepped forward and asked, "Miss Kaya you are talking about, is she the owner of the big house on the hillside?" Seeing the 3 children nod, Nami continued to ask, "Can you take us to find Usopp?" "Sure." Lin Hai glanced at Nami and couldn't help but sigh that a thief is a thief, and he is really scheming. Luffy clapped his hands and decided, "Yoshi, let's go find Usopp." On the hillside, in Kaya's villa. At this moment, Kaya was standing by the window, listening to Usopp standing on the branch of a big tree telling stories about the handsome guys they had met together over the years. Usopp said proudly, "Kaya, do you know? This man is handsome, with sharp eyes and eyebrows, a nose like a gallbladder, and he is unparalleled and independent. He has a sword that can move mountains, overturn seas, cut off mountains and rivers, and establish the universe. The hot guy is the author, he is really handsome, handsome to the point of being stunning, handsome to the point of being chopped off." Kaya nodded with shining eyes by the window, Seeing Kaya was so interested, Usopp continued mysteriously, "But there is someone more handsome than the author. Do you know who it is?" Kaya showed a look of horror and asked quickly, "Is there anyone more handsome? How handsome would he be? Sije. Hey, tell me now, Usopp." At this time, Usopp thought for a moment and said seriously, "It's those readers. I met those readers once. They were so handsome that they almost blinded my 24K titanium alloy dog eyes. I have never seen such handsome people in my life. They punched the 4 emperors and kicked the marines." With a wave of their sleeves, the 5 elders bowed down and worshipped. "Kaya, remember one thing, in this world, it is better to bear the crime of killing celestial dragons than to offend them, remember." After saying that, Usopp wiped the sweat from his forehead, then patted his chest with lingering fear. Kaya said gratefully, "Usopp, thank you for telling me this." After saying that, Kaya looked into the distance, as if she was looking forward to seeing him in person. "Those legendary handsome guys, it would be great if I could meet them." Thinking of this, Kaya shyly closed her legs and screamed, "Ah!" Luffy and his friends who arrived here just happened to hear Usopp talking about those legendary handsome guys. Lin Hai was a little surprised and doubtful. After all, what Usopp boasted about might very well come true. Although Lin Hai was calm, Luffy and the 3 children beside him were different. Their eyes were shining brighter than car lights. Si Gao Yi?" Luffy asked with a sweat drop, "I really want to meet them." Zoro on the side muttered with interest, "I'd like to meet him if there's a chance." Kaya, who was at the window, saw Luffy and his group and asked gently, "Who are you?" Nami spoke first, "We are people passing by here, and we are also friends of Usopp. We came here to ask if you have any unused boats and would like to give us one. Lin Hai on the side couldn't help but marvel at Nami's shamelessness. She dared to make such a shameless request on their first meeting. Is this everyone's specialty? Crabbit, who was eavesdropping on the side, was shocked to hear that the woman actually wanted Kaya to give her a boat. How is this possible? Those will all be Crabatel's property in the near future. How can he give them to others? Crabbit, who couldn't sit still, hurried over from outside and interrupted the conversation between Kaya and Nami. Crabately hates Usopp so much. What kind of friends did he bring? Send a ship? Damn. Crabatle said, the boat you want is not here. And Usopp, get down from the tree and leave here. We don't welcome a liar and a boaster like you here. Usopp stared at Crabator with some annoyance. He always felt that this guy was always targeting him. His sixth sense also told him that he was not a good person. He asked, why are you always targeting me? Ha ha ha. Crabatle sneered, targeting you? I'm not saying that. Just go outside and take a look. Everyone knows that you are a big liar who tells lies all the time and knows how to brag. The son of a pirate is a pirate. You can't change the nature of a pirate. Usopp couldn't stand the insult in the words. He dropped his tools from the tree trunk to the ground and said angrily, you can insult me, but you can't insult my father. He follows his heart and does what he likes to do. I respect him very much. Crabator sneered, I don't care what you think, but I won't let you come here and make up those lies to please our eldest lady. Do you think you can win her favor and get her property in this way? Usopp couldn't help but stepped forward and punched Crabatle to the ground. Shut up UBD. Tisk. Crabbattle spat and said, pirates are pirates. As the son of pirates, you also have violent genes. You resort to violence when you can't win an argument. What did you say? Usopp was about to go up and beat Crabbattle again. But then Kaya shouted, that's enough Usopp, stop using violence, violence won't solve the problem, can you go back first? Kaya has said so, what can Usopp do? Violence can't solve the problem? For some reason, Usopp felt a dull pain in his heart, especially when these words came from Kaya's mouth. At this time, Crabator stood up and said, get out of here quickly, and don't get close to the young lady. And the group of people over there, get out of here. Zoro, don't stop me, I'm going to beat him up. Damn butler, I'm going to beat you up. Luffy was being held by Zoro, his arms and legs swinging around. Zoro advised, hey, Luffy, stop messing around and don't make things more complicated. Lin Hai looked at Crabatle for a while and knew that he was a pirate's captain, by G. Klo. But now is not the time to take action yourself, so you should leave first. Chapter 20. After Luffy and the others left Kaya's villa, Usopp said uninterestedly, I'm going to go for a walk first. Leave me alone. Did everyone notice that Usopp seemed to be shocked? When we reached the fence in the wilderness, Luffy also ran away. Nami asked, where should we go now? Zoro shook his head and said, Luffy isn't here, so we should just wait for him here. Hey, hey. Lin Hai said, do you see that bad guy in the distance? He's walking backwards. I saw that person not far away doing the spacewalk. The few of them just watched in silence as the man walked up to them. Of course Lin Hai knew that this was Zongjao, the current acting captain of the Black Cat Pirates. Zongjao stopped and said, I'm not a weirdo. I'm not weird at all, okay. One of the kids asked, who are you then? Me. Zongjao introduced himself. My name is Zongjao, a hypnosis master. Master hypnosis. Three children came forward with great interest, and one of them asked, so you have a special skill? Can you show it to us? Lin Hai couldn't help but mutter, a child is a child, what special skills does he have? Nami said disdainfully, look at your expression, it's obvious that you just want to see it, right? Zongjao quickly pushed away Lin Hai's hand, meaning that he would not be allowed to leave unless he showed his skills. After all, Lin Hai was still very interested in this incredible hypnosis technique, and Lin Hai didn't believe that he could really hypnosis himself. After slapping Lin Hai's hand away, Zongjao said, are you kidding? We are not acquaintances, why should I show you my special skills? After saying that, Zongjao quickly took out a watch from his arms and said, look at this watch. When I count 1, 2, Django, you will fall asleep. 1, 2, eat, Zzzzzzz, x5 instantly, Zongjao, Lin Hai and the three children all fell asleep. Hey hey! Zoro still didn't understand. Just go to sleep when I told you to. Nami on the side slapped his forehead, turned to Zoro and asked, is this your partner? Zoro couldn't help but blush, and said quickly, I'd better pull them aside, where they sleep is in the middle of the main road. Fall asleep quickly and wake up quickly. Zongjao, who had woken up, had already left. Lin Hai couldn't help blushing at the playful looks from Zoro and Nami, and quickly explained, that guy is quite something. Looking at that swinging clock, I can fall asleep for some reason. Don't you agree? Yes. The three children cried at the same time. Zoro didn't bother to answer and instead asked, where are we going now? I don't know where Luffy is. Lin Hai said, why don't we go back to that snack bar? Nami agreed, it's better to go there than be outside here. On the other side, Usopp, who was in a bad mood, was sitting on the grass under a big tree on a high cliff, looking at the sea, and was frightened by Luffy who rushed here. It turned out that Luffy came down from the big tree. After the two chatted for a while, they suddenly found that the butler Crabadle and Zongjao were discussing some conspiracy. From their conversation, Usopp and Luffy realized that Crabadle was actually the famous pirate's 100 stratagems crow 3 years ago, and the man next to him was the deputy captain Hypnosis Zongjao. The two decided to let Zango lead the pirates to attack the village at dawn tomorrow. Then, they would use Zango's hypnosis Kaya to make Kaya make a will, leaving her property to her butler Crabadle, who was the hidden captain of the Black Cat Pirates, CLO. Hearing these conspiracies, Luffy stopped hiding and suddenly stood up and said to Kuro and Zongjao, hey, you are not allowed to hurt the people in this village. When Klo saw that the matter was exposed, he immediately ordered Zongjao to take action. As a result, Luffy was thrown off a high cliff by hypnosis, but Usopp thought it was a hidden weapon and escaped the fate of being hit by hypnosis. After falling from such a high place, everyone thought Luffy was dead. Zango wanted to chase Usopp, but Kuro said, don't chase him. No one will believe what he says because he has no trust in this village anymore. What CLO was saying was quite right. Usopp went around the village lobbying, but aside from being scolded, everything was the same as usual. Especially after Usopp explained to Kaya, Kaya became even more disappointed with Usopp. When Usopp, feeling depressed, returned to the shop, he suddenly saw Luffy and his gang eating and drinking there. Usopp couldn't help but stepped forward and asked, Luffy, aren't you dead? Lin Hai said disdainfully, he is just a pile of rubber. Have you ever seen rubber die from falling? Usopp sighed and sat down at the table, I see. Hey, hey. Lin Hai said speechlessly, what kind of character are you in? You are too fragile, aren't you? You still talk about being a brave sea warrior. Look at you now, you are just like what that hypocritical housekeeper said, you are just a boaster. Seeing Lin Hai hitting Usopp like this, Nami couldn't help but said, Lin Hai, how could you be so? Lin Hai raised his hand to stop him, that's the truth, right? Usopp stood up and said, what can I do? They are real pirates. I can't save the villagers. No, I can't let them hurt the villagers here, even if it costs me my life tomorrow. Luffy smiled, hey Usopp, there's still us. Usopp said excitedly, you guys? You're really willing to help me? That's great. Woohoo! Lin Hai pushed Usopp away speechlessly, don't let your snot run on me, I didn't say I would help you, look at your behavior, it hurts my balls. Luffy asked doubtfully, Lin Hai, aren't you participating tomorrow? Lin Hai shook his head and said, Luffy, we are pirates, not saints. Look, is the food in this restaurant delicious? Lin Hai clapped his hands and said, isn't that enough? I have received the kindness of the store owner, how can I let him get hurt? But those pirates wanted to hurt him, and you said, as we can do whatever we want, bah, as we are free, of course we beat those pirates up. Suga. Usopp said weakly, but I paid for it. Lin Hai was stunned. This meant that there was a loophole in his reasoning. Was this considered a slap in the face? Thinking of this, Lin Hai turned to look at Usopp dangerously and said, don't I have any dignity? If you have the guts, say what you just said again. Ha ha ha. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. Nami, I'll just be stubborn. Usopp hugged Lin Hai and shouted, arigato. Damn it, don't wipe your snot on me, it's disgusting. Lin Hai felt like she was going to collapse. Usopp, why don't you hug them? You must be taking revenge on me for what I said to you just now, right? Ah. You found me. Grass. Ha ha ha. Chapter 21. After playing around for a while, Zoro fell asleep, while Lin Hai and Luffy caught Usopp. Lin Hai asked curiously, Luffy, look, Usopp's nose is so long, how did it grow? I'm curious if Usopp's nostrils will be blocked by boogers and suffocate. Usopp exclaimed, don't scare me, okay? How can a person be choked to death by his own booger? Luffy scratched his head and looked at the ceiling. After thinking for a while, he turned around and asked, Nami, do you think Usopp will? Nami was already angry enough, especially now. What's the situation? The pirates are going to invade this village at dawn tomorrow, and these guys are still working on this? And as the captain, Luffy asked himself this question so leisurely. Nami couldn't bear it any longer and slapped the three of them. Nami felt that it was not enough, and Zoro was sleeping, right? So Nami also gave Zoro a blow. Zoro woke up and said confusedly, hey? Have you eaten? Nami's eyes twitched, one by one, they are all like this. Just at this moment, Lin Hai stepped forward and asked, Nami, you have been so irritable recently, is that coming? What's coming? Zoro thought Lin Fan was talking about the pirates' invasion tomorrow, and suddenly realized, what are you afraid of? I'll kill as many pirates as they come. Nami slapped her forehead, glared at Lin Hai and asked, I'm telling you, the pirates are going to invade here tomorrow, aren't you worried? They are real pirates, people will die. Luffy put his hands on his hips and said, what are you afraid of? Beat them up. Zoro, cut them. Lin Hai, kill them. Usopp, ahaha, it's up to me. If you guys want it, I'll give it to you. I don't mind. Hey, hey. Nami asked weakly, do you know where they come from? Before the war, shouldn't we prepare in advance and make some plans? Nami. Luffy stepped forward and smiled, don't worry, if they dare to come tomorrow, I will beat them all. Plan. Nami said angrily, really? I don't care about you guys anymore. Although Nami said so, she really couldn't ignore it, and Lin Hai and others on the side couldn't continue to joke. Soon, Usopp and a few others arrived at the coastal port, and then said, everyone, let's wait here for the pirates to come, but I will set a trap first. Lin Hai waved his hand and said, I'll sleep for a while, just call me when the time comes. Before she knew it, Lin Hai fell asleep quickly, because listening to the sound of the waves on the coast really helps her sleep. When Lin Hai woke up again, looking at the bright sky, Lin Hai felt a little confused. Who am I? Where is this? Lin Hai came back to his senses and was a little confused. Where was the person? However, Lin Hai could faintly hear some shouting in the air. Lin Hai slapped his head. Usopp had chosen the wrong coast. And why didn't they wake him up? Without thinking too much, Lin Hai quickly used his ability to rush to the source of the sound. That should be where the pirates invaded, right? Don't go there, the battle is over. Lin Hai hasn't done any namikaze moves yet. The port where pirates invaded the battle was not over yet. When Lin Hai arrived, he saw that Luffy had some wounds on his body, and Klo slashed at him with a very fast knife, but he didn't even react. Lin Hai was speechless. Space field. Lin Hai used his ability to instantly appear next to Klo, who was running at high speed, and then punched him away. Boom. A noise brought a large group of pirates back to reality from their panic. When the smoke cleared, they saw Klo lying there. This scene made the pirates lose their composure. It can't be true. That young man knocked Captain Crow away with a hammer. Is he lucky? How could anyone catch up with Captain Crow's speed? And he hit it. Who is he? So cool. Nami, who secretly ran to the pirates' ship, looked at Lin Hai in amazement. It turned out that it was Klo who caused those pirates to wail and get hurt just now. How is this possible? Nami softened her eyes, wanting to confirm whether what she just saw was real. After hammering Kuro away, Lin Hai turned around and looked at Luffy with disdain, and said with a smile, Hey, Luffy, you have been training for so long, can't you even keep up with this speed? Luffy was about to answer when Klo, who was lying on the ground, stood up and asked, Who are you? I'm so fast that I can't even control myself. You must have been lucky just now, right? Don't get too carried away. After saying that, Chloe adjusted his slicked back hairstyle. Lin Hai turned to look at CLO, and did not speak, but took out his sword, Gaofeng, from his own space field. Ichikalu, cut the cake. Clang. The sound of a sword rang out, and everyone felt as if a white light flashed above their heads, and then a scene appeared that made everyone present's mind go blank. I saw the huge cliff next to me was cut in half by Lin Hai's knife. CLO turned his head and looked behind him blankly. What the hell was that flying mountain? Was it chopped by a sword? Was this something a human did? After a long while, the pirates came to their senses and became terrified. What happened? This was the one he just struck, right? Ha ha ha, I must be dreaming. Can anyone tell me, am I dreaming? Ah! This is too scary. Is this human power? Is he a human or a ghost? Nami, who was on the pirate's ship, was almost stunned by Lin Hai's actions at first. How could a high cliff, like a hill, so far away, be split by Lin Hai? What kind of monster is he? He was so powerful, could he help me defeat the captain of the fisherman pirates and save my hometown? At this moment, Nami's despair was inexplicably stirred. Looking at Lin Hai's figure, a glimmer of hope rose. At the right time, a voice attracted everyone's attention. Lin Hai looked at CLO and asked, Captain CLO, what did you say just now? Kello looked at Lin Hai in horror, not knowing how to answer. This was a crushing defeat. Chapter 22. CLO did not answer Lin Hai's words, but looked at Lin Hai solemnly. From the sword that split the high cliff, CLO understood that he was no match at all. At the right moment, Luffy on the side complained, Lin Hai, he is my opponent, don't attack him. Lin Hai waved his hand and said, okay, I don't care about you anymore. After saying that, Lin Hai turned to CLO and said, Captain CLO, come on, I'm counting on you, kill that rubber BD. Nani, everyone exclaimed. Ha ha ha. Luffy laughed, how could I die here? I'm going to be the king of pirates. Lin Hai said disdainfully, what's so great about the pirates king? I want to be a Poseidon. Poseidon? What king is that? I've never heard of him. Judging from his strength just now, he should be able to do it, right? Hey, now is not the time to talk about this, right? Is he really not going to do anything? Listening to the pirates' discussions, Lin Hai didn't bother to pay attention to them. Lin Hai was extremely happy now because the system rewarded him with the primary observation haki and primary armament haki. Out of the corner of his eye, Lin Hai saw Nami on the pirate's ship, and he immediately flashed to Nami's side, hugged Nami's waist, and said, Nami, is your shoulder okay? Why are you so careless? Does it hurt? Nami said disdainfully, let go. Lin Hai scratched his head I can't help it, ha. Nami said playfully, it's okay, 100,000 Baileys each time, you owe me 900,000 Baileys in total. Lin Hai exclaimed, you are so wicked, how could you do this? Nami Kaid, who told you to take advantage of me? Lin Hai couldn't help but lean close to Nami's ear and asked, if that's the case, how many Baileys were there that night? Pia. Nami blushed and slapped Lin Hai, you. Lin Hai said disdainfully, it's because of your behavior just now that I think so, okay. Before Nami could reply, the fight started again. At that moment, the pirates who were frozen on the slope at the coast screamed again. Ah! Stop it, Captain Crow! Ah, we're all going to die, right? Let's call that guy to help us. He's the only one who can stop Captain Crow, right? Nami on the pirates' ship couldn't help but worry, is Luffy okay? No one touched them, how could they be injured for no reason? What on earth is going on? Lin Hai explained, those people were actually slashed by CLO. CLO used his speed that could not be captured by the naked eye. Nami pushed Lin Hai and urged, since you know, why don't you help him? Aren't you all companions? Luffy won't die, will he? Lin Hai pulled Nami into his arms and said seriously, why are you so flustered in such a small situation? Since Luffy said it's okay, then he can do it. We should trust our companions more. If we don't even trust them, then we won't go far. Do you understand? Nami thought about it for a while before realizing that this stinky Lin Hai was taking advantage of her again. Knowing that Nami wanted to speak, Lin Hai spoke first, is there a reason why you work so hard to make money? Is it because your family owes a lot of money, or someone is seriously ill? Or Duan. Nami gave Lin Hai a slap on the face. Or, where did so many or come from? After Lin Hai chatted with Nami on the pirate's ship for a while, the battle on Luffy's side was resolved. Lin Hai couldn't help but hugged Nami's waist again and said with a smile, "See, I said Luffy can do it, right?" Space field. Lin Hai used his ability to teleport with Nami to Luffy's side. Nami couldn't help but say, "You still don't let go? You really don't miss any chance, do you?" Lin Hai had no choice but to let go of Nami and wanted to ask Luffy if he was okay, but Luffy was so tired that he lay down on the ground. Armament haki hardening. Lin Hai slapped Luffy directly. "Ah!" Luffy couldn't help but said, "Why did you hit me? It hurts." Nami asked in confusion, "Aren't you a rubber man? Why does it hurt?" Luffy suddenly remembered what Lin Hai had said to him before, and exclaimed, "Lin Hai, you can haki." Lin Hai, 45, looked up at the sky and sighed, "Yes, a genius is a genius. When I wake up, I will know Conqueror's haki. What can I do?" Luffy pouted and said, "What's so great about that? I will be able to do it one day. I want to be the king of pirates." Nami on the side asked in confusion, "Wait, what is haki you are talking about?" Lin Hai shook his head and said, "Let's talk about it later. Where are Zoro and the others? Let's find them first and then talk to you." After Luffy and the other two rested for a while, they got up and went to find Zoro and the others. Lin Hai quickly opened his own system page, host Lin Hai strength, 20001700 plus 300 agility, 180, 160 plus 20, stamina, 38003200 plus 600 Conqueror's haki, LV2, stuns the opponent, can be controlled and released freely. For those with weak will, it will stun them directly. Armament Justice, LV1 Observation Right, LV1 Feng Shao Coin, 10,000.1, 9300.1 plus 1700, Space Backpack, Knife, Sword, Alias, Gao Feng. Friendly reminder from the system, please keep up the good work, host, and be awesome. What Lin Hai didn't expect was that the armament haki and observation haki were actually the rewards for splitting the mountain with a sword just now. It was really surprising. However, since there are more than 10,000 Feng Shao coins in the system, let's quickly find out if there is any simulated Nami. After all, the road is long and arduous, and I am looking for the Tao in the sea. After all, young people who are full of vigor and vitality can never help themselves. After searching for a while, Lin Hai couldn't help but said with disdain, "Fengxiao system, what the hell is this? There's not even a replica? And you call it Fengxiao system, bah! Flirtatious system." Chapter 23. After they returned to the snack bar and had a big meal, Nami couldn't help but ask, "Lin Hai, now I should tell you what haki is, right?" "Haki?" Zoro and Usopp couldn't help but ask, somewhat confused. "Ahem." Lin Hai coquettishly smoothed her hair, then waved and said with a smile, "Everyone sit down, this haki can be divided into 3 types." After Lin Hai's explanation, except for Luffy, the other 3 looked horrified. "Is there such a power in the world?" Lin Hai said with a smile, "If you don't believe me, I'll show you." After saying that, Lin Hai controlled the power of Conqueror's haki and attacked several people present directly. Nami, Usopp, and Zoro looked at Lin Hai in horror. This power was truly unbelievable. This is mental suppression? Looking at the expressions of the few people, Lin Hai said proudly, "I only showed off my skills slightly. If I increased my strength, you would have fainted long ago. Alas, I am so outstanding, but I really can't find any words to express my talent. It's really annoying." He started showing off again, and several people's faces turned black. Zoro said unhappily, "What's so great about that? I'll be able to do it one day." Lin Hai said disdainfully, Yes, 3 sword styles." Zoro said angrily, "UBD, you want to fight?" Lin Hai cried, yes, with this kind of momentum, come and chop me up, and by the way, let me show you what observation haki is." Luffy immediately clapped his hands and said, "Hurry up, let us take a good look." Lin Hai said with a smile, "Let's go out of the house. I'm afraid that if I break someone's things, I won't be able to pay for it. Some greedy people are stingy and carry a lot of treasures on their bodies." Nami was furious. What did you say? Lin Hai quickly ran out of the house and would not talk to Nami, otherwise he would definitely be beaten. Soon, Zoro found that he couldn't hit Lin Hai no matter how hard he tried. Usopp on the side exclaimed, "Sije, this power is too perverted." Nami said with a smile, "You who are more perverted don't know that just now on the slope at the coast entrance, Lin Hai split the high cliff on one side." Usopp didn't think it was a big deal. Splitting a high cliff? At most, it would just break a rock, right? Because when Lin Hai arrived at the coast, Usopp and Zoro had already gone to chase after Kaya, so they didn't know what Lin Hai had done to the high cliff. At the right moment, Zoro was sweating profusely, because the feeling of being crushed made him. Ignoring Zoro who was breathing heavily, Lin Hai walked over to the big rock and said, "Now, you guys can see the specific effects of armament haki." Bang! With a loud bang, the stone next to Lin Hai was smashed to pieces by Lin Hai's arm, which was suddenly covered with a layer of black. Nani? X3 Luffy on the side pouted and muttered, "What's so great about that? I can do it, too." Zoro on the side became even more excited after seeing this power. This kind of power, the man called Hawkeye should also have it, right? The world's strongest? It's difficult, this is more in line with my guess. Soon when they returned to the snack bar, the eldest lady Kaya also came here. With her brown hair and a thin women's suit, Kaya looks very tasteful. Lin Hai glanced at the people around him, and then looked at Kaya's outfit, which was completely a goddess and a loser. Kaya smiled quietly and said, "Everyone, thank you for saving us this time. Aren't you short of a boat? To express my gratitude, I will give you one." Luffy was shocked. "Really? Arigato, you are such a good person." Kaya smiled slightly, and Usopp's city fell. Kaya. Usopp had a lot to say but didn't know where to start. Kaya seemed to understand and chuckled, "Don't bother telling me, Usopp, I understand. I misunderstood you before. It was really Usopp, don't, needless to say." Luffy and the others on the side might not understand, but Lin Hai's face turned black. He felt extremely uncomfortable being fed so much dog food. After a while, Kaya went back. It would take a few days to complete the boat, after all, it needed some modifications, right? Usopp seemed to be intoxicated in a certain mood. Lin Hai couldn't help but complain, "Hey, if you like him, go after him, Usopp." Usopp immediately got angry and said with a red face, "What did you say? Kaya and I are not what you think, and my name is Usopp, not a stuffy person." Ha ha ha. Everyone burst into laughter. Lin Hai patted Usopp on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Since you don't have the courage, then look outside. It's not dark yet. Don't dream there in broad daylight." "A hole." Usopp said immediately, "Next time you eat out, you pay for it yourself." After playing for a while, Nami went outside for a walk. Seeing that she seemed to be hesitant to speak, Lin Hai asked, "Nami, do you have something to tell me? You look like this after coming back from the coast. Do you have a stomachache? Is your period really coming?" Nami was so angry that she punched Lin Hai. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Lin Hai said with a smile, "You don't want me to pay you back, do you? I tell you, no, not even a bailee." Nami rolled her eyes at Lin Hai, and finally mustered up the courage to ask weakly, "If there is a pirate with a bounty of 20 million bailies, or even more powerful, can you defeat him?" Nami has no choice but to do so. The shadow that Arlong has cast on Nami has been there since childhood. Nami thinks Arlong is invincible and no one can be his opponent. However, just now at the coast, Nami witnessed the shock created by Lin Hai, so she asked this question. Because Nami doesn't want to take some people to die again. Things like this have happened before. They all said it was no problem, but in the end, none of them came back, which made Nami lose confidence. Chapter 24. Nami asked, and Luffy couldn't help but wonder, is a 20 million belly bounty a big deal? Zoro explained, "How should I put it? The previous bounty for Buggy was 15 million bailies. Part of the bounty represents the threat to the world government, and part of it represents one's own strength and what he did to civilians." Nami nodded and said, "It is an assessment of overall strength, but some pirates' strength is higher than their bounty amount. Because Arlong bribed Colonel Mouse, the Marine headquarters was not aware of his actions and strength, hence the high bounty amount." Usopp exclaimed, "This bounty is too high. Luffy asked in confusion, is it very high? Lin Hai explained, the bounty on that crow is 16 million baileys. I didn't expect that after Luffy fought with him, although he won, Luffy was also exhausted. After that, Lin Hai poked Luffy's head and laughed, Luffy, don't you want to be the king of pirates? Look at yourself, you need to fight so hard to fight a pirate with 16 million berries. If you were asked to fight a pirate with 1.6 billion berries, wouldn't you be defeated in seconds? All you do is eat and eat every day, and you are so stupid. I am talking to you, you have been practicing with me for so long, have you become a dog? Luffy was furious, how dare you look down on me, UBD. After that, Luffy turned to Nami and said, Nami, take me to find the pirates with 20 million baileys. I can definitely beat him. I want to be the king of pirates. Nami on the side still looked at Luffy with distrust. Lin Hai put his hand on Nami's shoulder and smiled, Nami, what do you look like? Hey! Nami looked at Lin Hai puzzledly. Lin Hai was speechless and said, your expression really looks like constipation. It makes my stomach hurt just looking at you. To tell you the truth, even if a pirate's worth 200 million comes now, I can kill him. A mere 20 million baileys of pirates, even if he is underestimated, is nothing more than a glare in front of me. If he hasn't fainted yet, it's just another stab. Just now on the slope at the coast, do you think there is anyone in East Blue who can block my knife? Zoro made a jealous tisk sound, and Luffy said, ha ha ha, if it's this guy Lin Hai, he can really do it. Usopp exclaimed, is this Lin Hai guy so strong? Lin Hai rolled his eyes at Usopp and turned to look at Nami, who seemed to have made a decision. Nami looked at the tattoo on her arm with a painful expression, which made everyone serious. Everyone. Nami said slowly, actually, there is something about my hometown, Kokozia village. 8 years ago, a group of pirates called fishmen occupied my village. The leading pirates captain was called Arlong. He required everyone in our village to pay a life-saving sum of money every year. However, my family could not afford it at that time, so my adoptive mother Belmere fought with Arlong to keep me and my sister alive, and then she died in his gun. Everyone was silent for a while. Lin Hai, who was beside Nami, did not stop Nami from pinching the tattoo on her arm. After a while, Nami continued, Belmere was once a marine. During a mission, she picked up me and my sister. Later, she resigned from her marine position and raised me and my sister. But she, woo. As she was talking, Nami started to cry. Everyone could feel that Nami was extremely sad at this moment. Nami cried on Lin Hai's shoulder for a while, and then she calmed down. Lin Hai couldn't help but say, is that why you love money so much? Because if you had enough money at that time, your mother wouldn't have left. But the past is the past, you should just let it go. Nami couldn't help but think of Belmere's final farewell, it was her smiling face. Nami, Nakago, I can't say you are not my children. You must face life with a smile in the future. I love you. Bang! A burst of gunfire rang out, and Belmere fell down. Nami came back to her senses and couldn't help but tremble. It was Nami herself who witnessed her dearest person saying goodbye to her memories forever. Lin Hai couldn't help but hug Nami in his arms and whispered, Nami, the past is the past, no matter how reluctant you are, you can't bring it back. Although it is cruel, you have to think about the fact that you still have many dear friends. If you care too much about the past, you may lose your future. Be strong. Nami, who was in Lin Hai's arms, suddenly found that this embrace seemed to give her a different kind of warmth. However, at this moment, Lin Hai wished he could take out the Gaofeng from his space backpack and chop Luffy directly. Damn it! Luffy yelled angrily, where is that guy called Arlong? I can't help it, I'm going to beat him up. Nami, take us to find him. Zoro on the side couldn't help but complain, how can we go? The boat will take a few days to be completed, right? Luffy seemed to have lost his mind, I don't care, I'm going to beat Arlong up right now. Usopp said speechlessly, hey, are you listening? Nami, who was feeling sad, was brought back to reality by Luffy's noise. Only then did she realize why she had buried her head in Lin Hai's chest. Nami, with blushing cheeks, quickly left Lin Hai's arms and said, Luffy, calm down first, I have something to tell you. The thing is, I made an agreement with Arlong that when I earn 100 million baileys, I will buy my village. Lin Hai couldn't help but poke Nami's head and said contemptuously, you violent girl love money so much, you can do such a ridiculous thing, that's 100 million Baileys, and you actually gave it to the enemy who killed your mother. Duan. Nami hit Lin Hai directly, and explained with a black face, I have no choice. Although Arlong's character is not very good, he still values the agreement. Lin Hai stood up and said, did your head get hit by the door? You might as well believe that Luffy doesn't like to eat than to believe that BD. Duan. Nami hit Lin Hai again and said angrily, can you please stop talking so irritatingly? I just want to ask you why you love dreaming so much, wake up. Lin Hai explained seriously, Nami, with that kind of stuff, how could he give you the opportunity to fulfill your promise? Didn't you say that he was in cahoots with that rat colonel? So, don't have those fantasies. You should trust us. When the time comes, you can take us to the Kokosia village and kill the Murloc pirates directly, right? Besides, you risked your life to get those Baileys from the pirates over the years, why should you give them to him? Chapter 25. Hearing Lin Hai's words, Luffy couldn't help but remind him, it doesn't matter what happens, but I have to beat that Arlong to death. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, it's up to you, but we still have to stay here for a few days. Now that it's decided, where are we going to play now? Sleep. Nami, who was in a cheerful mood, retorted, it's still broad daylight, sleeping? Are you a pig? Lin Hai raised an eyebrow and said, it's okay not to sleep, we can go make a baby. Pucci. Zoro, who had been silent the whole time, couldn't help but spit out the wine in his mouth, ha ha ha. Usopp looked at Lin Hai and Nami strangely, while Luffy pretended to be stupid and said, making a human? Is it fun? I want one too. Duan. Nami, with red cheeks, hit Lin Hai and Luffy respectively, and then glared at Lin Hai fiercely. This guy. Lin Hai, who was lying on the ground, said to Luffy in a very unhappy tone, what the hell do you want? Go eat your meat. Do you think a stinky rubber like you can get involved in such a matter? Luffy muttered, how stingy. If you don't want to play, then don't play. By the way, why don't we go outside and fight? Fighting? Usopp asked in confusion, you guys are really energetic. Lin Hai's eyes lit up. This Luffy always ruined his good deeds. He would use armament haki to give him a good beating later. Seeing Lin Hai's expression, Zoro swallowed and couldn't help but said, hey, Lin Hai, what bad idea are you thinking of again? Zoro couldn't help but think like that, as he had been tricked by Lin Hai several times before. Lin Hai quickly adjusted his expression, then smoothed his hair, and said with a sunny smile, as handsome and sunny as me, with a healthy mind, I am popular among thousands of girls and have broken the hearts of all the beautiful girls. Usopp couldn't help but interrupt, hey, you're better at bragging than me. Zoro quipped, I think Lin Hai is more like a pervert. Lin Hai stared at Usopp with his fish eyes and said, Usopp, do you think your nose is too long? Do you want me to fix it for you? Usopp retorted, UBD, you want to fight. After that, Usopp pulled Luffy over and said, come on. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, Luffy, although Usopp's nose is very long, it is also a feature. Don't you want to invite him to join? Nami couldn't help but complain, did you invite her just because she looks unique? Lin Hai explained, this will make everyone's nose look more coordinated and better looking. Ha ha ha. Seeing everyone laughing, Usopp couldn't help but say, Lin Hai, UBD, I want to fight you one-on-one. Soon, Usopp joined the Straw Hat Pirates, and then after a lot of noise, everyone went about their own business. At a coast, Nami was alone, looking at the sea where the sky meets the water. I don't know what she was thinking, maybe she was gazing at her hometown. At the right time, Lin Hai also came here. Seeing Nami looking back, Lin Hai couldn't help but come forward and sit next to her and asked, what's wrong? Are you still worried about your hometown? Nami nodded and said, I am a little unconfident. I have invited those pirate hunters and some righteous people to save my hometown before, but in the end they were defeated by the Arlong pirates. Lin Hai walked up to Nami and asked, you must have been exhausted these years, right? Smelling the inexplicable smell in the air, Lin Hai's heart was growing weeds, and the throbbing of youth was somewhat uncontrollable. Nami shook her head and said, are you tired? Actually, I don't know how I got through this. Maybe it was the belief in saving the villagers that supported me. Lin Hai turned to look into Nami's eyes and said, why do you sound like you lack the energy that young people should have? Nami, you should embrace hope again and be a positive and optimistic person. Difficulties in life are inevitable, but isn't it the point of all we can do to face life with a smile? For a moment, both of them fell silent. Nami seemed to see the demeanor of people like Belmere in Lin Hai's eyes, which is a positive and optimistic attitude towards life. Nami couldn't help but be dazed when seeing the sunny person in front of her. She hadn't seen such a smile for a long time. For a moment, Nami found that she seemed to have forgotten what Belmere had said to her. In the past 8 years, Nami found that she had gradually become numb all the way. Hey, hey! Lin Hai couldn't help but shook him lightly, and couldn't help asking, are you okay? Ah! Nami came back to her senses, her cheeks flushed, and she quickly turned her head to look into the distance, muttering, who do you think you are? You are just a self-depraved pirates. Stop trying to teach me a lesson, okay? For a moment, the coast fell silent again, leaving only the sound of waves hitting the rocks and the sound of the wind. After a while, Nami couldn't help but said, Lin Hai, thank you for reminding me of something, I feel much better now. Lin Hai turned to look at Nami and couldn't help but put his arm around her waist. Nami said angrily, why are you always like this? Lin Hai said seriously, don't you think the wind is so strong at the beach? I'm afraid you'll catch a cold. Nami's face darkened. The weather is so hot now, and the wind is so cool. I'm afraid I'll catch a cold. Soon, Nami turned around and smiled sinisterly, it's okay if you want to hold it, 100,000 Baileys, you owe me a total of 1 million Baileys. Lin Hai exclaimed, do you really think I'm a guy? I don't have any money, I'm here, you can do whatever you want with me. Nami stood up and said, who wants you? I still like Bailey. Let's go. What are they doing? Lin Hai had no choice but to go back with Nami, and said depressedly, what are we going to do? What's so fun about those noisy ghosts? What Lin Hai didn't expect was that Nami suddenly turned around and kissed Lin Hai on the cheek, then said, are you satisfied now? Lin Hai instantly perked up, but quickly said, Nami, you dare to take advantage of me? No, I want to kiss you back. For a moment, Nami's angry voice was heard at the coast, Lin Hai, you BD. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.